If you're listening to this on the day it comes out and live near Vancouver, come to the Dime on Commercial Drive Thursday, February 15th for a chance to win a free wired snowboard. Before I start the show, I want to thank Gwen and Alaya at Mt Bachelor for arranging to use their office in Bellingham for this interview. Special thanks to everyone at Bachelor who worked to make the conference room clear of LBS prizing for us. Cheers. The FNRad Snowboard Podcast is presented by Skyview Campers, Never Summer's innovative take on the tiny home. Designed and built in beautiful Colorado, check out skyviewcampers.com. Wired Snowboards builds quality snowboards by hand 10 minutes away from my house. Visit wiredsnowboards.com and order one today. Fixed bindings are easy to adjust, long-lasting, high-performance bindings built to have less impact on the environment. Check out fixedbindingco.com. Rip Curl Outerwear is designed to search further in the snow, offering strength, durability, and all-around performance. Rip Curl Outerwear's got you covered. NewGreens, 100% organic, vibrant green juice. Buy yourself some at newgreens.com and use code FNRad at checkout for 20% off. The Boardroom Snowboard Shop, best selection, best prices, Vancouver's premier snowboard shop. Go to boardroomshop.com and use code FNRAD10 to save 10% off your next purchase. Support also comes from Mount Seymour, Grouse Mountain, Cypress Mountain, the Pro Standard GoPro accessories, and our friends at 1910. You can use code FNRAD at checkout for 20% off at 1910.com. The Haven's a center for transformational learning located on beautiful Gabriola Island. Plan a visit at haven.ca and use code FNRAD at checkout to save 10% off their Come Alive program. Josh Dirksen is proudly from Mt Bachelor and from Oregon. His long career as a pro snowboarder includes pro model boards, X Games half-pipe competitions, parts in Kingpin, Robot Food, and TGR movies, amongst others. And Josh has his own bank slalom at Mt Bachelor, the Dirksen Derby, plus tons of duct tape from the LBS, including an impressive win in 2018 after 20 years of lots of seconds and thirds. Josh embodies snowboarding in a way that very few people do. He's a joy to watch snowboard and a joy to talk with about snowboarding. Please enjoy this interview with Josh Dirksen. We start out by talking about the legendary Tom Nordwall.
He was the first person to give me a free snowboard product.
Sick.
And I went, when I was younger, I grew up in Oregon, and so Mount Hood was pretty nearby. And I went to High Cascade one year, and back when it was like $400 and something, the good old days.
Yeah.
And then the next year I went to Mount Hood Snowboard Camp. That was what it was, right? That's where Nordwall, Mount Hood Snowboard Camp.
USSTC?
Oh,
was
no,
it that
USSTC. That's the one.
That's what it was. Yeah.
USSTC.
Yeah.
And that's where I met Tom Nordwall. And that was definitely a moment in my snowboarding, when I kind of had in my head that, what was possible to be like a professional skateboarder, snowboarder. But it was kind of going up there and I seeing like this could work, and meeting guys like Tom Nordwall who are connected with the industry, and he gave me the first product that I ever got was a Joyride 148, little Dr. Seuss graphics on the bottom.
The Filch, that one was called.
Yeah.
That one is sick.
So sick.
Did you break that by any chance?
I didn't. No. I weighed probably like 94 pounds.
That's pretty awesome.
No,
Yeah,
I was a tiny kid, and at that time I was still tiny. Like I was a pretty tiny kid growing up, and I think that's kind of how I really got into skateboarding, snowboarding. Was the town I grew up in was small, and the only things happening were basketball, football, track and field, and wrestling was something. I got into wrestling too, but I was one most of the time. I just won by default because no one else was that low enough weight.
I love that.
But snowboarding and skateboarding was definitely something I attracted to, just because my size and worked out good to be lightweight and nimble. But also, I'd never quite lined up with coaching and people telling me what to do, I don't think. And that was something snowboarding was something really appealing.
A lot of the early pro guys that were just the best of the best were small, like Dev, Peter Line. Like there was an advantage, like big lanky style guys like Wes Makepeace and like that were tall. Were way more rare. Whereas I guess these days,
well, maybe way more rare too, because those guys got recruited for basketball team or something. As they saw me in a lineup and they're like, "No, we'll take him last if needed." But it was much more than just my size, for sure. Snowboarding was and skateboarding. I kind of use those two as the same sport almost. It was just what I do in the summertime or what I do in the wintertime. But that's what I was attracted to for sure. And and then going up to Mount Hood and meeting Tom Nordwall and getting that coolest board at the time, that Joyride, when that thing came out. And Nate Cole, wasn't he one who was?
He certainly was.
There was just some stuff coming out, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And definitely put me on a path to like wanting more free snowboards, which has been going good since that time. And then I got that Joyride, and then Tom Nordwall moved on to Yellow Bus, which is kind of a random company with looking back, kind of a goofy name, but it was Tom Nordwall, and then it was Alistair Schultz, and that was another local legend at Mt Bachelor.
Sick.
And he was riding those boards too, and even riding them in Mac Dog video parts and stuff. And and so I got that board, and that was something like really fun to
Yellow Bus stuff.
Yellow Bus.
I rode because Yellow Bus manufactured the Ice Age boards I was talking about before. Yeah, so Yellow Bus was the first manufacturer of. There was an Ice Age Jimmy Scott. I think the first year they just did 2 Jimmy Scott boards.
Yeah,
and those boards rode really fun. Yeah. They were good. The kind of grainy top sheets, and there's a real like visceral memory for me of the way that those boards, like when you'd mount your bindings, I was so proud to ride them because I was getting them for free and I was like connected to this company. It was like, what an awesome time in snowboarding for sure.
Yeah. And interesting how we remember those details of like what the top sheet texture was. And, it's just such a special moment of everything was new, snowboards included.
Totally new.
Design and yeah, those are good. And if Tom Nordwall's out there listening, hey Tom,
Nordy,
it'd be great to see you again.
Fuck yeah! I randomly ran into him at McMiniman's down in Edgefield at a concert. I don't even remember.
A little while ago now, or
it would have been probably 5 years ago. It might have been Willie Nelson actually.
Oh, nice. Does he still have his lovely blonde locks?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Totally, Tom. Yeah. That is cool. He was such a big part of it back in that day, especially the community culture part of it at Mount Hood. You know, at he was head coach at Windell's, and he could make things happen. He was the guy who could get you a digger job, which would literally change your life, right?
Yeah. It changed my life for sure. I mean, that was definitely a moment in my snowboard career. Or no, a moment before my snowboard career. Right exactly before. And it was very appreciative of him. And I think about him often. Good old Nordwall.
Yeah, totally, man. Yeah. So like that you're from Oregon. So your home mountain was where?
Well, I guess to do a quick rundown, I was born in Canada to American parents in Ottawa, Ontario, but I only lived there 2 years. My family was just living up there. My dad swim coaching, and then after 2 years, we moved back to Oregon, and that's where my family's from, and like both sides of the family. And Roseburg, Oregon, was one side of the grandparents, and Portland area was another side.
Sick.
And then I grew up in a town, Cresswell, Oregon. It was a kind of a smaller little town. I think maybe it had 1,500 people in the whole town. Yeah. And like a really small school where you definitely knew everybody. I mean, you knew everybody from first grade to 12th grade, everybody's names. And,
wow.
It was a tiny little town. And then my dad was really into cross-country skiing, which came in handy up in Ottawa. There's a lot of cold temps up there and flat.
Tons of
from
trails.
What I hear. Yes. I don't quite remember. But and then we moved to Oregon, and every weekend during the winter was going up cross-country skiing. We had a dad who kind of led the charge in the family, and every weekend of the year was hiking, backpacking, kind kind of outdoors, and I definitely grew up in that.
Winter camping, is that like...
That was a big thing. Winter camping and...
I hate it.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine, how does a dad get kids to appreciate and love winter camping?
Forcing them, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there some times where you were like,
Well, it's just what we did. There wasn't a choice, and we didn't know we had a choice. It was just the family being together, and it was kind of miserable. Like we went on but it was a joy to look back on now. And I totally laugh at the position I'm in, especially these days with split boarding. And we totally go winter camping and enjoy it, and is very productive being a pro snowboarder in the backcountry.
That's probably the reason I don't do it, is that I never did it as a kid. And every time that I go, I'm like, I am never doing this again.
Yeah, that's what my sister said at about 16 years old. She's like, and I'm done. And she truly hasn't done it since. But it is definitely skills that I still use to this day, and I enjoy it. I enjoy winter camping for just, there's no one out there. You know, you can go hiking in the summer, and you'll see very small amount of people, but winter camping, you can get like, there's no one. You feel so peaceful, and just the snow kind of softens all the noise, and it is a really enjoyable time if you have the right gear too. That makes a big difference, like a warm enough sleeping bag, for example. But we didn't have the right gear when I was a kid. We'd go out in like leather boots that we bought at the ski swap, little cross country boots that you put on in the morning, frozen solid. And just techniques too. These days I sleep with my boot liners, so you wake up and they're a nice temperature.
Nice.
And back then we didn't have that those ideas, or maybe you just didn't want to put a snowy pair of leather boots in your sleeping bag. But maybe it toughened us up a little bit, my sister included. And,
of course.
The whole family. And but then I got into skateboarding probably when I was about 11, maybe, and with my neighbor Justin Stafford, and then discovered snowboarding at 13, I think it was. Kind of a funny little tidbit is for the last 30 years I've been telling people I started in 1988. And just over the last year, I found out that it was actually 1987 when I started. But it was December of 87. Yes. But there was a free ski day up on the local hill that's an hour and a half from my home, is Willamette Pass. Okay. And that's where I started snowboarding, and where I grew up snowboarding. And that's kind of where my style, my influences, kind of the older kids, that's kind of where a lot of my direction in snowboarding developed. And cool. And, really cool. It's kind of they could easily claim the steepest resort in Oregon. Wow. And most of the resorts in Oregon are centered around volcanoes, which pretty flat, have a specific like 30 degree. Yeah. And Willamette Pass has some really, really steep runs. Cool. Gotta check it out. Yeah, it is cool. And a kind of problem that they've had over the years is they're a low down resort, which kind of means below 6,000 feet, 2,000 meters. And that makes their snowfall inconsistent, which is a problem. But also even the bigger problem is just keeping employees around to be there when they are able to open. You know, if you don't get snow until end of January, and then it finally gets good, the employees probably aren't still hanging around. And so they have their challenges, and last year they did pretty good. And I think they got bought by a company that kind of had some interest in making it happen. And we had some good days there last year. And but this year I think they're back to El Nino hard times. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah. One of the things that's come up in the last couple of weeks since Tyler Nickel, who's a world-class cat park builder, brought up a project that he worked on, hike parks. Like you could, like I think to invigorate the scene that we have. Like hiking rails and jumps, or check this out. Even. Like basically a souped up toboggan hill. When you build them in a community, even if it's a community that has a ski hill, all of a sudden you've got this community of people that are hiking that wouldn't be able to afford like a lift ticket. They get their stuff from the Sally Ann maybe. Yeah. But it doesn't have to be that either. Like we know a lot of people that would choose to hike 10 features under the lights at night. Yeah. Against going to any resort, really. Yeah, even these days I almost dream of splitboard mountains, where it's or touring mountains where there's no chairlift, but there's awesome terrain and somebody's laying a good track going up, and just farming like good mountains.
Interesting. Yeah, because there are a lot of these low-lying mountains in BC where, they don't have the community to support that infrastructure. And like you're saying, the challenges are real. Like if your job is supposed to start in November and then it doesn't start until the middle of January, they might just say, oh, we're not running the hill this year. But there's some wisdom to that too, like to create spots where you come in.
And part of the problems is the access to get to the parking lot, like it's not just the chairlifts that get you there. It's kind of them plowing the parking lot and keeping some facilities open. And maybe we'll do that one of these days.
I just feel like if there were people like Mr. Patagonia, that are really actually concerned about inclusion in the space, one of the best ways to include people is to create a free area adjacent to, you could have a place up in Whistler in the foothills where it snows. Or even if it doesn't snow, you've got snowmaking and you create like a little hikes zone that people just come and learn at, or that people come and terraform the mounds of dirt so that you need very minimal snow. And then you've got these cool little features to just hike and progress. So fun. I think that's the future of snow sports, because we're at a $300 lift ticket. Like crowds and lift lines, even with the tickets being out of control prices situation here where, you could have a release valve for some people.
I think Woodward out in Utah, I think they got some good stuff going where you can buy a month season pass and you can buy like just nighttime, kind of
totally
like cheaper prices, not hiking like we're talking about, but it's just the ability to kind of work it into your life in a inexpensive way.
I really want to talk to Gunny and the whole Woodward vibe just about what they're doing, because it is switching what a ski resort is. And this is a cool conversation to have with you, because I've been talking with people this week. The idea that snowboarding never was really in control of the industry side, because there was already a fully formed industry. The story I've been making up in my head is that imagine roller skating already had roller skating parks and a tour and contests all set up. And then skateboarding came in and it had to be under the roller skating banner. It would be different. And that's what snowboarding is. There were already ski hills. There were already manufacturers. There were already competitions. And the ski manufacturers kind of watched us flounder around building boards in our garages for a while. And then once there was the money end of things was enough, they're like, okay, guys, we're going to take this. We've been doing this for 100 years. Like, you don't know what you're doing. We're already building your boards. We already have your numbers. We know how many you're making. Like, step aside. It's time for us to take over, that's just the production side of things and the company side of things. The community side of things, that happened without many of us even knowing.
It still can be taken in different directions where we want it.
100%. Like you've got your bank slalom that's, there's no, the ski industry isn't, telling you need to do this. You're making that up from your imagination. I'm interested to get to the story about the bank slalom, the 20-year bank slalom.
It's a fun story to get to.
We're here at Mt Baker at their head office. Thank you very much to the Baker crew for letting us use the space. When did you first hear about the bank slalom? Was it before you competed in it, or?
Yeah, very much so. Maybe not way before. I mean, I think walking around the offices here, looking at all the posters, I think I might have been to my first bank slalom in 97.
Wow.
And which is a long time ago now, but pretty much my career can be like centered with the bank slalom. Every year the bank slalom was part of my snowboard career, like the reasons I really got going riding a lot, and every day was like Baker's coming up, and and it started really early on. I moved to Bachelor in 94 and moved in with just good old snowboard buddies and worked up at Mount Hood as a pipe digger, digging the pipes, not raking the pipes, and did that for a couple years. So 94, 95. And I remember 95, I started riding for Morrow Snowboards.
Rad.
And Morrow Snowboards was out of Salem, Oregon. and Northwest, and that's Baker. And this was the event. You know, Robbie Morrow had won it already once, and during my years, he won it again when I was up here. I think the year he won it. No, the year Goodwill won it. It was Goodwill first, Mario Paulo Dabini second, and myself third. That was a fun Morrow sweep.
Yeah, Morrow sweep. I never even thought about
sick.
that. That's amazing.
And Goodwill with an awesome line.
Yeah.
But Robbie won it again too. And so definitely the people that I was around were winning it and doing well. But my roommate, Ross Peterson in Bend, I remember he went up in what I'm guessing was 96th, the 12th annual. And he came back and he told the stories about how cool it was. And that was really something personal, like hearing about it and that it was possible just for us to go up there. And so I think the next year is when I went up there with Morrow, with the whole Morrow crew, and had a fast wax board. And that first year, I think, of course, there's been so many years, too many to count now.
Yeah.
But I think it was that first year, like I did quite well. I think I got third, which was like, ooh, this is my thing. Like this could work out.
Yeah.
And it was I missed first place by just milliseconds. And I'm like, oh, this could be quite easy, even maybe to get that gold duct tape. And then to kind of jump through the whole story timeline, since that first one where it seemed like, oh, this could work out and not be as challenging, I went 20 years and then finally won it. And in exactly 20 years too, which kind of makes it like a nice little book story.
That's
killer. I can talk about that, and I'm sure we will.
Yeah,
but,
the win, right? Well, year two, did you come back and think, I'm 100% going to win this year?
Maybe not 100% going to win, and that's kind of when I think about my mentality too. Like I kind of went up there with it's almost a snowboard mentality or a Baker mentality. Like I'm coming up here to have fun. I'm coming up here to do my best, and I came up and I had fun every year and I did my best. And my best overall those years were second place, third place, fourth place. And so I got second place over those 20-year block. I got second place 3 times. I got third place 4 times. I got fourth place 3 times. And pretty much every other time I got top 10. I think there was one year I didn't qualify, which was heartbreaking. And
what happened that year?
I don't know. I guess I can make excuses, but I think it was a good excuse. I think I had a board that had a really deep structure. It was kind of when I first started riding for Solomon, they had really fast boards, and part of that was they stone ground their boards, and and they're really known for fast bases, and so they're kind of playing around with stone ground the structure that you put in, and I got a structure that was probably better for Mount Hood in the summertime as a really deep structure, but if you put it in certain types of snow, it's not really that fast. And having a fast board doesn't do everything, waxing it, but it's not going to help. It's not going to win it for you, but it might help you lose. And I guess having a fast board, and so that year I just had a really slow board, and just when I got on the course, and I kind of looked at it like, oh, I need to start paying attention to, not a board just looking fast, because I looked at that thing and I'm like, that is like even more structured than the other one. Like that's the one that's going to go quick. Yeah. But that's kind of always been my Baker battle too, is picking out boards, like which board I'm going to ride. And kind of a fun thing that I looked at the other day, I was looking at one ball J. I think they're one manufacturing, but one ball J wax. Everybody knows it.
Totally.
I looked at their website and they kind of had a board across racing, just kind of explanation. And one of the things on there was you'll go faster on the board you're used to. I think a classic theory up at Baker is you need a brand new board with perfectly sharp edges, not one scratch in it. Right. And that you got a week ago, but you waxed it. Yeah. And kind of the boards that end up riding the fastest go the fastest are the boards that you're comfortable on, of course. Totally. They're used to, but also a board that's been waxed and waxed like 50 times. Yeah. And if it has a big old core, P-Tex cleaned up core gouge in there, it's probably going to be faster than something that you're not used to. And if anybody checks that out, it's on One Ball's website, and it's like
Sick.
every detail on there. I'm like, oh, I should have read this 25 years ago. I would have maybe had some more success, but not that I didn't have success at Baker. I'm very thankful, but I am thankful exactly how Baker went down. You know, I think it was all those years. I think if I had won it, I would have been a couple milliseconds faster on that first year, whatever it was. I think, I wouldn't have been, it was such good motivation every year for my snowboarding to try to be the best I could at a moment in the season where it's it's not early season, but it's not really late. You know, it's kind of when things are ramping up, and
Right.
And every year I have Baker on my mind, and this year included.
Yep.
And, just to ride every day, get strong, not worrying about keeping sponsors happy or getting shots. You know, it's kind of I need to keep this, like do it for myself and make myself the best possible snowboarder. And that's, I think, something that I'm very thankful of, especially when the years that Baker gets postponed. Like this year, it's like, oh no, like what am I going to do now? You know, I really notice how that motivation has been so important for myself and my snowboarding and my career in the end.
That's kind of cool, actually. I wouldn't have guessed that. But I do have that experience when I got into the Baker, that all of a sudden I'm like, shit, I'm calling Mark Fawcett. I'm like, how am I going to do this? Like, give me some tips. And actually, I was in the category against him, but like, he's got nothing to worry about there.
Yeah, he's a whole nother level.
In fact, Fawcett's, that Olympic moment that I'm sure you know
98
about.
Olympics?
98 Olympics where his binding pulled out.
Oh.
Canada was going to sweep.
Yeah.
Like we were.
Was that? I listened to. I think that was your podcast.
Yes.
That was probably a couple of years ago.
He talked about it, but he was basically saying exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Like, how do you crack a fresh board when you've got this one that's just working totally perfect?
Yeah.
So he was like, no animosity towards the builders. That board was expired. He knew it was expired.
Yeah.
It was unfortunate that it broke when it did because there was no going back. It was just like Todd Richards, right? Todd bails in one of his runs in 98. It was like a sudden death. It was like, if you bail, you're out.
Yeah, that was.
It sucks.
Yeah.
It was a crappy format, and they've since made it better, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
and with Todd that year, that was I was riding from Morrow with him, and we were traveling all over the place at the same time.
Yeah.
And that was such a hype up to one little moment. It's like, no.
Oh.
But
I just saw something on it the other day, and John Simmons is like, this was my first contest ever.
Yeah.
Like to win Olympic gold at my first contest ever. And I'm going, that's what Terrier was talking about. This is exactly what Terrier was talking about.
Yeah.
Was that this is going to become something that it's not, like a stamp of like, here's the best in the world, which eventually it was. You know, when Sean was winning it, you know, he was like that next level competitor above everybody else. But in the beginning, it counted for so much, but it wasn't it just kind of destroyed everything that had come before it. You know, the world.
Yeah, there's I think my personality as a snowboarder, you know, Shaun White's kind of the opposite. Like the hype up, he feeds off that, and it'll make him a better snowboarder. But the best days I've ever had snowboarding were the days that were unexpected for me to do well. For example, you know, is like when things start getting hyped up, like Dirksen's going to win it. That's when I start snowboarding worse. And that's just kind of my personality, which is maybe why I went away from normal sports too. Yeah. Like snowboarding is something that it's kind of the whole season, you know, that it's based on, and not just moments or your whole career even. Totally. You know, it's like how your whole story in snowboarding, and not just you came to the Olympics, you won, and then everybody forgot about it. It's definitely suits my personality well. Yeah,
Terrier was kind of the opposite. There was a bunch of those years in there where you're competing with him where he was unbeatable. Didn't he do like back-to-back wins, 2 or 3? Or
for sure. Yeah, Todd got him once. I think at the U.S. Open was that. But that was a big. Yeah. There was one event in there that Todd won the event over Terrier, and it was rad. It was amazing. Like, oh my gosh, Terrier
Yeah.
is unbeatable. Yeah. And that was the whole
Totally.
hype up with the Olympics too. And the big deal was that the best guy wasn't coming.
Right. But then also at Baker, he was unbeatable. Remember, he was
so fast.
What years were those? Were those like 96,
I think it was probably 96 to 2017. I mean, but he was, he's so fast for so many years, like so consistently fast.
The edge control, just watching him go, you're like, oh, holy shit.
It's so beautiful.
How is he so much better at that than 99.9% of the people out there?
Yeah. He was, that was racing. And that's just something that like a core snowboarder can really appreciate because you can see that like, whoa, that is different, than the other. But everything, pipe, tricks, air awareness, upside down, like free riding in Alaska. He was a very motivating person in snowboarding all those years too, for myself and for many others.
So was he competitive in the start gate? Was he like, Dirksen's a contender here?
I wouldn't say that's his style. He's pretty chill, which is intimidating.
It's even more intimidating.
You look over and it's like, he doesn't look nervous.
Right. Yeah, I remember him telling a story about Jimmy Scott, and I've heard it a couple of places, but he told me like, Jimmy Scott was winning, half pipe competitions all over the place.
Yeah.
And in the start gate, just before Terry goes, whatever you do in your run, I'm going to do the same tricks, but I'm going to do them twice as high.
That was Jimmy's, he didn't go the amplitude, but he had the tricks.
He totally did.
Yeah. And then Terry came around with both.
Oh, just ruled it. So in these in-between years when you're getting a second, like you said, with the Todd Richards thing at the Olympics, so much hype. And then this moment. Yeah. And then the
amount of times that I heard my friends tell me, always the bridesmaid joke. I was like, I've heard that one, man. But eventually, the year I won it, I was totally in a different mindset. I remember Brian Fox, he's like, I'm hoping you're going to win it this year. And the answer I gave that year was different. It wasn't like annoyed. It was kind of ahead of my head. Like, I hope so too. But, I'm thankful for getting second a million times, and just being able to consistently place and be in that top level of bank slalom racers. And, so I think the year that it did actually happen, that I won, that it wasn't just that I waxed my board correctly. It was just my mindset was different. And another piece, I went up there saying, I don't want to get third. I do want to get first. And, as I'm lying to myself if I come up here and I say, I'm just trying to do my best. And, it's like, I'm coming up to win. Like, that was my goal. And, and I think just simple telling yourself, and I didn't run around telling everybody I'm going up to Baker to win, is something that was in my thoughts. And, but it was very much in my thoughts that I was going up that year not to get second, I was going up to win. And then it happened, and it's like, oh, maybe, what you think really does mean a lot. And, and it does manifest into
What's
reality.
The margins we're talking about here? Because that's what I've heard lately about this manifestation. There's nobody that wins when the margins are that tight that wasn't like, I'm here to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the Baker race has been won by 0.00 something. I think Lucas Tabari's year, he got the first place by like a tight little second. But when you look at how it all goes down, like it's always like milliseconds. It's crazy. People can go down a whole course, 10 people, and how close their times will be.
That seems impossible.
And not just seconds apart, but 0.0 seconds apart, hundredths of seconds apart. And it's crazy, just the little things, the little mistake, and you're like, oh, that means a bunch. But another thing, speaking of mistakes, there was a year that I got third at Baker on a run that I crashed on. And I crashed and I got back up like, nope, it's all over. And I think just kind of you start snowboarding more naturally when you think it's all hope's lost and you're just doing it for like you normally do when you ride down the hill.
Right.
And it's interesting seeing those years. But that's advice, like if you crash, don't give up. Keep going. Like you never know what's going to happen or how it all play out. But a lot of life lessons that I've learned up at the Mt Baker Bank Slalom.
The year that you won, did you have a flawless run, or is there always?
And And that's never really happened. Like when I've got second, third, fourth, there's always little points that I vividly remember, like, oh, that little
Chuck.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember after I took my run, I'm like, I don't think I can remember anything that happened, that was a mistake. And and it turned out to be true. And the year I won, it was a kind of a block of time, like in first.
Yeah.
And which was also kind of a dreamy way to do it too.
Yes.
And it was like, after all these years, is finally all the mistakes were out of the run, and I'm so thankful for how all that
Undisputed
went down.
Like,
and the 20 years of Hawken was there.
Yeah.
That was also something special, and it was a great course, and so many things about it were cool.
Yeah, one of the things that Terry said on the show that surprised me was that he felt like winning a competition was only felt good when people were there and they weren't hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like beating Brushy when Brush has a knee injury or something, that just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
He's like the best event. I think he might have mentioned a Triple Crown or something. He's like where everybody was there and everybody
had good runs
on point.
Probably too.
Yeah. He's like, that's more fun. And I'm like, obviously I'm not a competitor. I would want to win because like everybody who was better than me fell down, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how I'm looking at it going. The only way I'm going to win is if something miraculous happens here. Yeah. That's fun. So, but the cool contrast with you is that you're also filming parts with very fun film crews. Like, so there's this seriousness to the Baker thing, but then there's this, I don't want to say reckless abandon, just like you have parts in great movies. I mean, the Mac Dog stuff, that takes that kind of focus, right? Like that what you have for the bank slalom, but the other community projects are a little bit more like, let's go have fun, let's make stuff look good, let's crew up. And,
even that I could trace back to Baker Bank slalom influence. Even the style of video parts that I filmed, I could totally pick out like Baker, how speed and a race, but it's still cool. It's not all it's about the community that goes up there. And, I think that kind of showed my video parts too. I was definitely into turning and, not just the straight line to a jump and land clip. And, it was my style of snowboarding, but I think it's a style that I got from just years of the Baker Bank slalom and not just the race, but how Mount Baker ski area organizes a race, what they put the importance on, the riders that show up to it. There's a lot I can think or point out in my just snowboarding in general that is influenced by the Baker Bank slalom. And we could go, I have a snowboard contest, the Dirksen Derby, and that one's fully influenced from the Baker. I came up to Baker and I went back to Bachelor, and it was mentioned like, oh, you should do like a snowboard contest back here, not necessarily a bank slalom. And at that time, I think Baker was the only bank slalom. That's probably not true. For sure, I would think there's others worldwide. But as far as my perspective, that was the only one.
Yeah.
And then I brought the idea back to Bend, and it's fully like inspiration from Baker. Everything they do, and there's plenty of times I'm like, I got this great idea, and then I'm like, oh wait, I got it from Baker, and nope, that's their thing. And they have so many just great ideas how they do it, how they organize an event, how they organize a ski resort, how they build their lodges, how they feel like family. And that's shown in every detail of my pro career.
So how are you affiliated with Bachelor? Like, were you like a home pro for Bachelor, and they gave you, like they would give you a pass every year, and
they give my dad a pass even.
Damn, that's sick.
Yeah, but they are my home mountain. There's no doubt about it. And my style of riding, I think, style of every person who comes from Bachelor, like Ben Ferguson, Marcus Agee, Jason McAllister. we're a flat mountain. And that's why it kind of translates to Baker Bank Slalom. Like we're a flat mountain where you're really working for your speed. It's not like Jackson Hole where you're just getting the speed and you're trying to control it.
Right.
We're a mountain where if you don't know how to get speed and move around the mountain, that you're not going to be able to hit the jump. You won't have the speed.
I forgot this, but I did a bend trip. We did a Mt Bachelor trip with the Ice Age team, and it was people from all over the place. Dave Pinkerman, I remember, was there, and there were some kids from California who were surfers, and they showed on the side, like, so it's I remember it kind of being like Mount Seymour, like there's side hits.
Yeah.
And like,
that's definitely what we're known for.
Yeah. And so there was some flat spot where these surfer guys were going to the side and pumping it like a wave, like surfing. And that was the first time I'd ever seen that anywhere. I still do that now. Like if I'm somewhere and there's like a little flat with a thing at the side. Yeah. And you generate a lot of speed that way. It's actually a fun way to ride. Yeah. But I didn't. And
it's a really unique way to ride that when you head off somewhere and start filming video parts, it's something that shows in your video part that you grew up at Mt Bachelor. And we even got Lucas Walks, a skier. Yeah. And you can totally tell that he grew up at Bachelor too, that his style of skiing is big mountain stuff. But even when he rides that big mountain stuff, there's like a Bachelor influence in there.
A Bachelor flow. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a very special, unique mountain worldwide.
Right.
Like there's nothing like it. It's a perfect cone.
Yep.
And the wind always comes from the ocean over to the west. And so just kind of how it blasts the mountains makes endless lefts or endless rights. And a lot of the surfers really appreciate it, like Jerry Lopez and all the, it's pretty common to see Hawaiian people.
Yeah. How did Jerry get there? Have you ever asked him about it? Because I know he was, I guess he was retiring from surfing, professionally, but he did like a whole snowboard brand and everything.
Yeah, he did. That's his style, is to bring that into it, kind of whatever. I mean, he had windsurf boards and surfboards, but he grew up in Hawaii and then surfed the North Shore, surfed Pipeline when there was just him and one other person maybe.
So sick.
And then it grew, and I wouldn't say he retired from surfing, but his son Alex was born, and then him and his family, wife Tony, I think they just wanted Alex to grow up in a place where it was Alex's world, maybe. Maybe I'm putting words in his mouth.
Sure,
I think,
no, that makes sense.
But out there, and
right.
I mean, Jerry is superstar out in the North Shore of Hawaii.
Oh,
but in Bend, he was just Alex's dad, and he's loves snowboarding, and but he loves sports. He's definitely known for surfing, but he was windsurfing, snowboarding, anything kind of standing sideways. He put as much passion into snowboarding as he does or did surfing.
It's crazy that he would go surf, like, what's the closest break? Like Seaside or something?
Yeah, Seaside, but Pacific City is kind of
Pacific City's,
the one that you don't have to be hush-hush about. And
right.
It's just kind of direct over from Bend, and
okay.
Paddling out there is kind of like going to the bar. You just kind of see the people you love seeing, and everybody's got a smile on their face.
Sick. They've got a sick skate park there too.
Yeah, they do now. Yeah, that guy with a cool wave going over it. Yeah,
it's unreal.
Yeah, my buddy Jeff Mollenkopf owns the shop there, and
dope.
Kind of the crew of surfers in that area got all that going for many years. They put out a lot of effort, and it was cool to see it finally get built and see how it came out. And I think they just put a addition onto it too.
Yeah.
So I just skated the first part, but they added a whole nother section on there.
Sick.
Yeah, but those skate parks in Oregon, that's another part of my career that had a lot of influence. Like I grew up knowing about Burnside. I skated Burnside when it was just maybe 2 or 3 little cement piles, transitions built onto the back wall with Nordwall. Yeah, he took me down there at USSTC. And but then soon after that, that became a huge thing in Oregon, like that style of skate park getting built. And that's fully working for your speed, like kind of bachelor style riding. You're like trying to pump transitions and go fast to the right spots. And that was something that had a lot of influence on my snowboard career.
Did you keep skateboarding for yourself, or were you a pro skater?
Yeah, I'd say I skateboarded as much as I snowboarded until kind of more recently. Like I guess over the last maybe 10 years, kind of since my daughter was born about, but it's also kind of since I like turned 40-ish. I still skateboard, but before I'd skate parks, pretty much transitions, not a lot of street skating, maybe when I was in high school or something, but pretty much my board stayed on my feet and just kind of flowing around skate parks and airs but these days it's kind of more point A to point B. Like I got a selection of skateboards and it's like, which one's the one? Where in the past I just had one, my park board, and now I got different wheels, little zinger boards and cruiser boards, and it's just kind of when I need to get places I really enjoy. And sometimes I'll go skateboarding for like 45 minutes, just going places down sidewalks and not like maybe ollieing up the sidewalk, but not doing tricks. It's just kind of nice cruising around and enjoying some nice soft wheels but my whole life was fully skateboarding. So much skateboarding in summer, all summer long, and it was I love skateboarding as much as snowboarding.
Morrow sold to K2 Corporation.
Yeah.
And I briefly worked there for about 5 months.
At K2.
At K2.
During that moment.
During that exact moment.
Island.
I was working at the Canadian headquarters, but I did go down to Vashon and meet the guys. It was so sick. What a place.
So was that kind of a West Beach where you... Because that was about the time when Morrow owned West Beach, too. Remember that little blip in the...
I forgot about that,
I rode for West Beach for a second.
Oh, dope. Yeah, Chip was still involved at that point. That was where... Right. Yeah, Chip sold it to the Morrow family. That's the best thing about Morrow was up until that point... Like it was Rob and his uncle and his dad, maybe even. Like it was like there was a real family feel to Morrow.
Yeah.
So I'm in the Canadian headquarters, and the guy who's just about to become the U.S. CEO, was actually in charge of Canada at the time, Robert Markovich. And I go into his office. It's not unlike this, and there's a whiteboard not unlike that. And Morrow is on there, and he's like, we just bought Morrow.
Yeah.
And he's like, looking at it going, well, what do you think we should do with Morrow? Like, where should we position it? Because they had liquid, they had like...
that was a question.
Yeah,
I even got on West Beach, and I never felt like it's like West Beach is like Devin Walsh, it's like, there was and West Beach is the West Beach Classic, that big snowboard event.
Right.
It felt like just we were guests in the house or something.
So Morrow at that time was on that whiteboard. Markovich is looking at it and he's going, what should we do? And I actually got to say to him, are you kidding me? Morrow's like the highest quality boards. You're selling Ride, you're selling K2. Those are good high-end boards, but Morrow has pre-cured, torsion-wrapped foam cores that allow them to like tweak every little aspect of that board. There's no wood flaws, there's no knots, there's no grain orientation.
Yeah.
These boards ride perfectly, and they're engineered they're over-engineered. They're incredible. There's nowhere for this to be other than, high-end stuff.
Yeah.
And then to my dismay, by the end of the, that season.
Sold to K2.
That was K2 owned them, but that was the guy thinking like, where are we going to put them? And he was just like, okay, we're going low end. We're taking the equity in the name and we're going to blow it out and sell it everywhere.
Yeah.
And make
And it's still
boards.
being sold to this day, I'm pretty sure, but at Big Five Sporting
That's it.
Goods.
That's where that was the decision was happening in that room.
Yeah.
And I was like so bummed. So I worked at K2.
Yeah.
K2 had K2 Ride Liquid 5150 and Morrow.
Yeah.
And I got to choose any board of any company for my free board.
Yeah.
And I took a Todd Richards Scarecrow warranty board. I was like, this board is better than everything else that we have.
Yeah, he always had such awesome graphics too.
So good. The graphic was so good. So Morrow, joining the Morrow family for you in 95.
Sounds right.
You were like now a part of this legendary Noah Brandon, Todd Richards, Jana Mayan, Trevor Graves.
More than just the riders.
More than the riders.
Everybody in there.
Rob Morrow.
And there's a lot of
covers.
design, like Sanders Nye.
Sanders
Nye. A lot of
Tucker Franson was in there somewhere. Yeah.
It was it was an awesome, super awesome. And that was a big decision. That was kind of my first big decision in snowboarding. I guess, so as we started, I got that free board from Tom Nordwall, and then it led to yellow buses. and a World Cup pipe event came into town. And this was when I moved to Bachelor in '94. And I showed up on my yellow bus, and actually it hit a rock, and about this much of the edge was missing on my yellow bus.
Wow.
And so I took my first run through there, and then somebody, the local Burton rep, he's like, "You want to just ride this board?" And so I rode a Burton board for the next run. I'm like, "Whoa, snowboards can be better than a yellow bus with a missing edge in there."
Yep.
And then I headed up to Hood that summer to work my first year at Mount Hood pipe digging. And that's where I met Todd Richards and met so many people that I still love today. And at the end of the summer, it kind of came around that I could ride for Burton. Like they're like, "Yeah, we're all for it," or I could ride for Morrow. And Morrow, I'm like, "Oh, that's." And it was a toss-up. I mean, I was riding all summer Terrier board, and I was a Terrier fan.
Sick board.
I'm like, but it was really just kind of the personal, it seemed like I'm Oregon, they're Oregon, and Todd Richards, I mean, to this day, he's my biggest fan, which is, it's like really motivating having such a talented rider say you're awesome, it's like, oh. And so luckily when the time came that I chose Morrow at that moment, and then I started running for Morrow, so that was probably the fall of '95. I got on Morrow, and just from there it was awesome. Like I hopped on trips with Richards, and we went to, early on was pipe contests, and that's kind of what I started early on, as in being like the first couple months, even not even that long. But I was into pipe contests for a little bit, and then I just kind of faded into kind of more big airs were kind of starting to be a thing, and then it moved into filming, which is the majority of my career was jumping and filming. Yeah. But I was kind of into pipe, especially like that first summer at Hood and riding pipe and stuff. But and then Morrow turned out to be so awesome, just for being inspired by all the riders on the team, and learning kind of marketing of snowboarding with Todd Richards and Chris Holtz and Jeff Bartell. They had an art department that is legendary, like still going. Not the Morrow art department, but they're still out there doing their thing really well.
Did they transition into Nemo with Trevor?
Yeah. And
which is a game changer.
Yeah. And for myself,
even outside the industry.
Yeah, myself as just a beginner pro snowboarder, that's a huge part of snowboarding, is not just snowboarding well, but knowing how to get in the right places and do things with it and what to do. And that was incredibly
having Trevor to teach you that, like that relationship between. I remember I was quite young when I noticed Rob Gracie. So I met Rob Gracie in '95 at
Is that the USSTC guy?
Rob Gracie was.
That was Rob Gillis.
Yeah, you're thinking Rob Gillis. Rob Gracie was a skier from the East, I believe, who was a staff photographer for Transworld.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "You ski and smoke." He also smoked. Like, I don't know if it was chain smoking. I just remember being like, "This is weird that this is the Transworld guy." But I had a conversation with him, and he says, "I mostly shoot with Jimmy." So Jimmy Scott and him had a partnership, which was like a big portion of why Jimmy Scott was a prolific pro snowboarder.
Yeah, it is very much a team effort.
Yeah.
In snowboarding too. It's not just doing the trick. It's like somebody shooting the trick in the right way, and coordinating where it happens, where that person got the shot of you doing the trick. It was a team effort, and that's what Trevor Graves especially really taught me.
Yeah, we all know those resort guys who were better than the best people to come out of the resorts, but they wouldn't wait for a cameraman ever.
Yeah, no problem.
Exist.
Like not everybody needs to wait, but
right.
But at that time, I definitely had a life plan, and snowboarding was it. And I'm like, how am I going to get free snowboards and do this forever? And Trevor Graves really showed me the way. And then Todd Richards, being one of the pros that did everything, was a really well-rounded snowboarder, skateboarder. That was part of the whole image back then. It's all the best snowboarders were skateboarders, pretty much.
Absolutely.
And then also going to Morrow and visiting just kind of snowboard technology. And that was kind of Sanders and I. Alex Warburton was in there for a while. He was kind of more bindings.
Yep.
And but just seeing what you're standing on, what you're riding, how boards can change how you ride. And I think they they turned my style, affected my style, like the style of board. You know, I always look at a snowboard that there's a snowboard and how am I going to ride it? You know, I'm not looking for a board that makes me ride better or like it's not even there. You know, I want to know the boards under my feet and I want to feel the board. I want to feel how it's different. You know, there's kind of a common thing that you want a board that you don't even know it's there. It's just so natural. And it's like, I want to know that board's there. And I want to know how special it is and how to feel it. That's something I learned at Morrow Snowboards, you know, just the design does matter. Every snowboard is not the same.
What a different experience. Think about being a pro snowboarder today, right? Like, you're not going to be flying to Solomon and meeting the 1,500 engineers they have there or whatever. Like,
but I can't talk about that, though. There's a pretty cozy little family at Solomon, too. And that moved on well. But we'll get to that.
And I'm not dissing on Solomon. They actually have like a solid group of engineers that are building amazing stuff.
Yeah.
But when I hear Jason Ford talk about going over there and learning along with them, teaching them how to build snowboards, they know how to do it now. So if you get
they know how to do it, but I think what I learned at Morrow, like, definitely made Solomon boards different. You know, when I brought that information to Solomon, it's like Solomon does what they do well.
Yeah.
But I think I had a lot to offer. You know, thanks to like what I've learned up until then.
And the involvement level. That's what I'm getting at, is that like Rob Morrow is inviting you to the factory and he's probably showing you around in a very excited way and going like, these guys are excited. Look what we've got coming out. Like, I saw Warbs the last time he was designing boards. He was helping design at Yes. And they had the like see-through clear, you know, Yes board.
Yeah.
The powder hall.
We did that.
Yeah. Oh, right. But there was a concave to it that he was really excited about.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool to see board designers
like with the Morrow spoon nose. You mean?
Yeah. So it was the opposite of that. So the Yes Hall had like
I know that board.
Yeah. And he was like, this ride's amazing. You got to try it. And I'm like, man, it's been a while since I've had that experience. But back in the 90s, that was kind of, you go to a factory and there'd be, you know, some board nerd there that was so excited to show you, like, look, this is how we're making them better.
Yeah. And very original ideas. It took a long time to like get established in the industry, like not making a snowboard dead flat. It's like the spoon nose was like so long ago, like it doesn't need to all be flat. You know, there's
totally
benefits, and that's something that's totally.
That was one of those boards that was like, okay, so I'm going to try and tell the history of snowboarding next season in 25 episodes.
Yeah.
History of early snowboarding. You can't leave out how big of a deal that Morrow spoon was.
Yeah.
Because it was something that if you knew about it and you wanted it, that was the only thing you wanted.
Yeah.
It was really the cutting edge technology of that year and something that was vying for like top spot, raddest board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to throw the lunch tray into that history?
The lunch tray is there, definitely. Yeah. And there were a couple of little low profile boards from Avalanche. There was a whole segment in the store at one point where it was low rise lunch trays.
I remember Andrew Crawford was a teammate of mine at Morrow. And when he got on Morrow, they're like, all right, we got all these awesome boards. Which one do you want? And he's from Montana, at that time would drop like 60-foot cliffs. And he's like, I want the lunch tray. They're like, are you sure? And he's like, yep. I heard about this. Send me the lunch tray.
That's amazing.
Yeah, declared up the lunch tray had a nose about an inch high.
Yes.
And it was a straight up block and a crazy stiff board and probably about a 135.
35. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they were all super small. So it was I think the swing weight was what we were always talking about. Ooh, we're going for low swing weight. Yeah. It was a remnant from cutting down boards.
But and kind of that joyride board, that was kind of the people started cutting down those joyride boards, putting a plate on there, tracing it. You know, it's kind of like, because I mean, the Morrow spoon nose, that nose was probably this long.
So
like big. It was a
lot of people cut those down actually because there was no
kind of around the time.
Yeah. Were you there during the spoon nose, or was that like 92 or something? 91?
Yeah, I would say that was a little bit earlier.
So they were pretty established by 95.
Yeah, I think I got on there, and Todd Richards got his first pro model.
The dyno. Yeah. That was sick.
Yeah, the white top sheet.
Yes.
Like that was when I got on there. Yeah.
Amazing.
So it's kind of the triple or single barrel, double barrel, kind of the core construction started becoming really unique. And
oh yeah, I forgot they did more than just like this
single barrel, double barrel, triple barrel.
That's nuts. Like
Yeah.
that they actually made tri-cores is essentially what you're talking
Yeah.
about, is like 3 independently wrapped pieces of foam that are different densities.
Yeah, kind of what it did is put some vertical walls in there, though.
Yes.
That would add rigidity.
Torsional stiffness.
And, yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
boards rode so good.
Yeah.
So good.
A lot of,
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun on those.
Yeah, that's super sick.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, as a pro snowboarder, you're also like paying attention, like, okay, this is my job is to bring feedback back to these guys on what they're designing.
Yeah. And to learn what kind of feedback they want, how to give that to them. You can't just say, this board sucks, this board's good. It's kind of trying to get the lingo, pick up the lingo too. And that's something that I developed riding for Moro.
That's sick.
Yeah.
How long were you with them for?
It seems like a long time, but looking back, it was probably 95 till, 95. And then they got bought by K2. And
99, I think maybe.
Yeah, 99. I remember I had a pro model with a K2 Moro with Todd Richards, and I think it was 2000. I remember
Sick.
kind of the logo.
Yep.
I think it was 2000. So probably 95 to 99 I rode for him.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
in the whole scheme of things, it wasn't that long, but it was a very influential time
Of course.
in my life. And then, it was kind of the time when everything was going public. That was a crazy time in the industry when there's huge amounts of money. We went on a photo shoot with good old Moro, and we had masseuses that gave us massages at night. And
That's amazing.
Yeah. That was, I would say the glory days, but it's even just the glory moments, just a bit of time there when there was just tons of money pumped into the snowboard industry. But then got pumped in, and then it all fell away. And that's when K2 picked up Moro, and K2 was really good. I have really fond memories of them too. Just as a company, I was only there, I think, 2 years maybe.
Yeah.
And then they decided to focus on K2, I think, and Moro became like a nothing brand with no team.
Who were your team managers during that time?
Rebecca, Shem Ruse's wife, Rebecca Ruse, probably now.
Yep.
And that was my team manager. And before that, it was Chris Owen. He has a big part of my snowboard history.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Billy Anderson, Todd Richards, Eric Linus was on K2 Moro.
Nice.
Got on there.
Yeah.
Crawford had, at that moment, he went and rode for Rosignol.
I remember
And,
he did like a
Pretty much
Iron
remade the
Maiden
lunch
board
tray
or something.
for his pro model.
Crawford's an anomaly. I've got to get him on the show, right?
Yeah.
Like,
That would
became
be-
a NASA
Yeah.
scientist. He worked for Google with the
Yeah, I think he still works for
self-driving
Google. I went to his
cars?
wedding.
Jesus.
I went to his wedding a week after I won Baker.
Oh, wow.
And I was out on Maui, and I rolled on out there like, Crofts.
Damn.
And he has a really cool wife and a really cool family, some wild kids. I saw his kid air guitaring, and the kid's like 4, 5.
Oh, that's so sick.
Yeah.
That's super sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but he's doing very well. And he went back to school. And he has a really cool life story too, like snowboarding, and then went back to school. He's the oldest kid in his graduating class. And then he got jobs at NASA and designed a part that's on the Mars rover. It's on Mars now.
Oh my God.
And but now he works at Google doing stuff you can't talk about.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's
kind of one of those projects was like a self-driving car.
Yep.
Which is not groundbreaking anymore, but he kind of does new projects and clever ideas. And the people he works with are really cool too. They're not what you'd think brilliant people. They're creative people.
Yeah.
They're not people that graduated with straight A's with a master's degree. They're just people who have a different way of thinking, and Crawford being one of them.
That's so dope. Does he still snowboard? You ever ride
I
with
wouldn't
him?
think so, because I think where he lives and he's working, and his new passion, but also like he beat himself down really hard. And I mean, it started out with 60-foot cliffs to flat on a lunch tray.
Right.
And a couple of years back, he got a hip surgery and maybe even a replacement. So maybe he's feeling better now, but he did like beat his body down with that was his style, and that was what made him awesome to watch. Is he did not give up. He would just boom, 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 going for it until he got it. And but I think it caught up with him, and that's why he had to retire from snowboarding and but keep his brain moving.
He's done
somehow.
Really well. Yeah. He's done really well.
It's really
stuff.
cool seeing how.
Did you? I guess I remember that time at K2 when they got Morrow that there was an intentional non-cross pollination of like teams. So you're not encouraged to ride with like Vile when he gets on K2, right? Like you're still doing the Morrow team is separate from even the ride team and everything's.
That was at a time when there was like team photo shoots and teams were really stuck together. Volcom kind of really did that well. Yeah. Like the family, and that was kind of the whole industry kind of wanted that. Like our team is tight and that's what we were going for sure. We went on all the trips together, and it was that was my crew of riders at that time. Besides, I think around that time I was filming with Kingpin Productions, Whitey. Sick. And so there was other snowboarders that we're hanging out with, but kind of the core group was we were doing it together. Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Jody from the Man Boys who was explaining to me how difficult it is when you've got a tight-knit crew of guys that just all get along and film well together. Yeah. To be put on a trip just with random people from just some team you're on. All of a sudden you're on like a team trip on a team where there's somebody who's maybe like a dick to you or like who's like, fuck, you get paid more than me, fuck you, or whatever it is. You just don't travel with them.
Yeah, I think at that time or those days, you would kick that person off the team. Everybody, like we all had to kind of say who we wanted on the team, and it was made up of us. It was we totally had to say. It wasn't like now where you need to bring people from different areas. It's like this is us, and we snowboard together all the time, and so we're gonna get that guy on the team, so he's like on the same boards, and we're doing the same things.
So there is a push for more inclusion on the team or diversity. And that's great that they're doing that stuff now is important. But I could see how like a company mandated team roster is going to maybe mess up. Well, no, you have to just do the same thing and go like, hey, we all need to get along. This guy doesn't, this guy's not cutting it, or this girl's not.
That's kind of life in general, though. If you don't get along, it's not going to get you to the same places in life. Being somebody who's easy to work with, and that's always been the case, or easy to hang out, or easy to get frustrated with. If the weather's bad, this one person's not going to go crazy. That's an important quality for a snowboarder to have too.
Right. I always faulted Sean White for going off and doing his own thing. I thought that he was just a difficult person to be around. So like I went to Mikey Rentz and was like, hey, what was it like to ride with Sean when he was young? And he's like, we got in a fist fight. And I'm like, exactly. Yeah. Like he was, but really now being more like just a kinder person, I see what Sean did as like, he had to one up everything. He had to be that much more dedicated.
And that's what he did.
Everybody else. And he did that. And then he's going, wait, why are people saying I'm not a part of the community? I'm like, fucking, this is all I do all the time. Yeah. And I would include him 100% in snowboarders from that era that I looked up to, and I really respect his riding. Yeah. I've definitely used him as like a default for like a guy who doesn't get it, and I don't do that anymore because holy shit, what he was doing is just next level. Yeah. Like,
and that was his style. And part of snowboarding, pro snowboarding, is bringing people from different directions, that have a different way of doing things. And he was unique in his own way for sure.
Totally. Yeah. And he started so young. Quite similar to you, like you started quite young and stayed with it the whole way through, which is epic that you could make the longevity of your career. People don't get to choose whether, it's luck of the draw, right? If Jamie Lynn was on Burton instead of going to Mervyn, he might have had a shorter career.
Yeah, and I think of that too. If I would have made that Burton choice instead of Morrow, I'm sure they would have cut me at some moment along the way.
Right. Well, I mean, they cut Terrier for crying out loud. Yeah,
they were my nemesis. I'd say, going through this whole time, it's like, what's Burton doing? How am I going to do it different? But they were such a kind of like Terrier, like something inspirational, like, oh, that's where we need to be.
Totally.
And I think that influenced a lot of riders and companies and people in the industry in a very good way.
I think so too. I think as we get older and as there's more story to tell of the history of snowboarding, I really like how tight-knit the groups are. Like Mike and Pete from Mervyn were in meetings with Chuck and Tom and Jake, and Jamie. Jamie's included in there. There's these people got addicted to this fun thing.
Yeah.
And, they started figuring out a way to deal it out to us so that we could get addicted to it.
Yeah. I love Mervin's part in the whole snowboard history too.
The best.
Just with their snowboard design and giving people shit when they need it. And
yeah, man. Well, they really, everything at Mervyn felt close to the heart, like that they were doing stuff, like you were saying, motivated by Burton, going, okay, they're doing this, let's do that.
Yeah.
They're I cannot wait to get Mike and Pete into the booth, talking about.
I bet. Yeah.
And I was thinking about it the other day. I remember hearing Mike tell the origin story of the wavy side cut of the magnet traction.
Yeah.
He's like, a Ginsu knife, can cut a shoe, right? There's something to it.
Yeah.
What if we try that on a board? And then when they tried it, it was like, oh my God, look at how these ride. It's like a full other category of the way a board can ride.
Snowboards were camber. And then when they said, wait a minute, you can make a banana, and just how that changed snowboard design from that moment. It's like that it doesn't need to just be like an edgy cambered board. It's like, whoa, there is ways to put a board, not just flex or shape, but also profile.
Totally. And it was like this new thing, because that's been the through line for all of snowboarding, is that, people were struggling against gear that was failing all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like their boots were falling off, their bindings were broken, so we kept improving. And every once in a while we'd hit a dead end, like those step-in things became a complete dead end for a while. Now they're coming back because there was something to them. Kind of. Right. They are so tarnished from that first. It was such a cliff. I remember they had built to about 30% of the boots we were selling at the shop. Maybe it was 15, but it was a significant number of boots.
Yeah.
And then the next year, 0. The next year, we're not doing that anymore. We don't carry those anymore. Yeah. And there was some part of the Morrow story that might have actually been where they went down, isn't it?
Yeah. That's just kind of my perspective at the times. But that was a big investment that Morrow made in Salem, their step-in binding. And they had a really good connection point. Kind of the idea, if you look back, it's like, oh, that's the way that you do want the connection points to be. But then in the end, from what I know, maybe a snowboard historian would correct me, but Burton had a patent for every connection point around the boot. And,
oh, wow.
And so when Morrow made theirs, Burton said, oh, hey, we actually have that patented. And then they kind of made the product not financially stable. Yeah. And then there was also the moment when everything went public, Morrow included, and they had so much money invested into the company, and then they put it into that step-in idea. And then when everything dropped off, it all dropped off at the same time, step-ins and money included. But that was just my 18-year-old perspective on the deal. Right. And,
did they ask you to ride the step-ins? Did you try them? They didn't even ask you.
Maybe I tried them. No. Yeah, they kind of let us do what we did. But Robbie Morrow would still be riding them this day. He loved them. Yeah. And Billy Anderson rode him and made him look great too.
Oh, cool.
And I liked my bindings. Warburton was starting to make bindings then too, and there was some really well-designed bindings in Morrow at that time too.
I remember the Morrow binding, being a player.
But there was something about step-ins, like if you ride step-ins, you're being forced to ride them. There was kind of the general idea was no one just picked them up off the shelf. And I think Robbie and Billy did. They're like, oh yeah, I want to ride these. But kind of in general, if you're a pro on step-ins, it means that it was included in your contract or something.
Or that it was a big part of your contract.
Yeah, yeah.
I've had both, who was talking about it? Mark Frank Montoya, he was like, these things broke my fucking career. Like that. I couldn't make them work.
For which company? Which step-ins?
What did he do? He was K2, I think, Clickers.
Mark Frank?
Was he at some point?
No, he was... of
Tech
course,
9.
Tech 9. Yeah, he was a big part of Tech 9. I don't think he was ever on. I mean, you could just look at his style and he was never on the step in.
He did it for a year, and he just hated them.
I came off Tech 9 to ride Switch because they just flopped out a big old check for me. Or what I thought was big, and I was like, holy crap. I thought I was good enough to make it work. Like, I almost pulled it off, but like internally, it's just, man, I learned a huge lesson about being true.
But the K2, I think that was totally involved in the contracts.
Absolutely.
Like you barely get a contract or you get a huge contract based on clicker or no clicker.
Because there was a hype around it like, well, you don't want to miss it if that's the next thing. Maybe every binding is going to be a step-in binding at some point.
Yeah, and I think a job of a pro snowboarder is to be curious, about all these ideas. And, you're not trying to pick the established product and ride it. You're trying to push it in directions and see what directions. You don't know what that is. Something
funky with the shape of your boards, something with the side cut.
Yeah, you want to try new things and new ideas. That's our job, to go in different directions. And some of them are good and some of them aren't. But that's a little bit of a gamble. But that is the job of a pro shredder to explore different ideas.
To develop the product. I like that. This is a good transition point to Solomon. When do you go on to Solomon? Because
so K2 bought Moro, and then I rode for them for 2 years, and then they dropped their team. And the only two riders on there with another year in the contract was me and Todd Richards. Yeah. And then we both asked politely, hey, can we leave? And they said, sure, no problem. Like, we understand.
Did they buy out your contract, or did they just allow you to leave without breaking
they just allowed us to leave and do different things. And I have a lot of respect for K2 at that time for like how they handled that situation. It was like, oh, cool.
Todd go to Rossi or something?
Todd went to Rosignol. Yeah. On there with Crawford. Crawford went first, and then Todd went after.
Right.
And that's some really cool boards on Rosignol too.
They certainly did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you went to Solomon.
And then I went to Solomon. Yeah. And
how did you make that decision? Were there people? Again, was like Burton coming back?
No, you know what it was at that time? My Moro team manager, Chris Owen, was on Mervyn, LibTech, and I came pretty close to riding for Mervyn, actually.
Wow.
Which for a lot of Northwest riders would have been a dreamy scenario for myself included.
It would have been.
But at that time, like I'd ridden for Moro, local, K2, felt like a moment, and that was just Vashon Island there.
Yeah.
And my buddy McAllister rode for Solomon. And that was a time when Solomon was like had some really shiny, really appealing boards. But I think what really got me was just kind of the international. Like, I want to go places. I want to see what else is out there outside of the Northwest. I love the Northwest, and then I'm from here. But I totally wanted to, go ride glaciers in the summer in Europe, and then I knew what was possible because my roommate Jason McAllister was on Solomon, and he was doing those things, and I had a lot of friends other than just McAllister on there too that were already riding for Solomon. And so that was another big decision and a big moment, how to take it. But I think it was the sparkle of just international, let's go, or I want to go worldwide,
where were their headquarters at
Annecy.
That point?
Yep, and they're still in Annecy, France.
Right.
And actually I live in Switzerland now,
right,
with my Swiss wife, who totally ties into my Solomon conversation here. And they're 3 hours from my house, and every summer I go down there and check out boards and talk about boards. And at Solomon, I've been on there 20-something years.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Congrats, dude. That's
totally
solid.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And actually the Solomon Snowboards department has stayed very similar. Like the same guys that I worked with the very beginning, I still work with now. There's a lot of, and it kind of has to do with French law. You can't fire people.
Oh, wow.
Kind of in France, you're kind of, if you're an employee at a business, you're kind of family. Just like you can't fire your uncle.
I got
if you
you. Yeah.
And it's you're always around, and there's something to that's kind of like you're always family, and it's kind of a cool way to.
So there's a couple of people that were there that aren't there anymore. Emmanuel Krebs.
Yeah, he was my team manager.
And Jason Ford.
That I might have drove half crazy. Sorry, Emmanuel.
I just saw him 2 days ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, what a brilliant. That's a brilliant dude too, man.
Yeah,
like he's a university professor now.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah,
he was really smart.
He was super smart.
Yeah,
and
he was really fun, and he was fully. I got on Solomon straight with him and his team manager, and boom, like it was go time.
He's a good snowboarder too. Holy shit! It's cool when your team manager actually has done the thing.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. That's been a lot of my team managers.
Good.
Chris Owen, he was always a pro snowboarder early on in Bend. Right. But a great thing about my Solomon decision at that time was the first trip. I think Emmanuel invited me on my first trip to Les Deux Alpes, France. And it was like a summer trip with the whole Solomon team. And that first trip, I met my wife, and we've been together since.
Wow. Was she on the Solomon team?
Yeah.
Oh, no
she
way.
actually has a medal in the 2002 Salt Lake Olympics for snowboard halfpipe. And so kind of we met and loved each other, and went on a bunch of trips together, riding for Solomon, and still like we snowboard together, and like snowboarding is a very big part of our family.
Oh, that's super rad.
And so whenever I think about decisions I made, I'm always thankful that one led me to my wife. And
right.
And
You'll be a different person here riding for Mervin.
Yeah.
But you know.
Many like little decisions that were a split second decision. I mean, if I rode for Burton, I swear I would have got fired one of those years. You know, because snowboarding.
Everybody did. Yeah,
and in snowboarding, you have good years and bad years and good times, and you know, you got to find companies that stick around, you know, that are in it for the long haul and to support. But also, I kind of joke with Solomon about this too, that I don't think they can fire me. You know, I'm like, I've been around too long, man. But I think the same goes with me. Like, I don't think I can fire them. You know, it's just the relationship that we built. It's you know, that we complement each other, and we know so much about each other and our history that I really enjoy like the time that we've had. Like riding for each other and riding boards, and I really enjoy it. It's an interesting
concept. So like when you leave the Moro thing, so obviously there's a hiccup in there where it becomes K2. Yeah. And did K2 invite you to like design your pro model, or was it kind of like here's a like come to Vashon and
I can't
pick
remember
out
who
your
designed it, but it was a sick board.
Yeah.
And it was a line of boards. Todd had the 156 size. Yep. I had the 159, but pretty much I rode a 162. Sick. That was the next size up. But my official pro model was a 59.
Right.
And I almost want to say Sanders and I designed it, but
killer.
But I can't remember. It was out of Vashon Island. I remember taking a few trips to visit them. But it was a quick little blip. It was probably 2 years.
Yeah. But and they were transitioning at that point where they were stripping away the actual factories at Vashon, shipping the equipment to China, and they were just prototyping really, I think, at K2 by that time.
That would totally be the time. Yeah. And when I say Solomon's in Annecy, kind of the whole company's in Annecy, and the boards are made in China at a nice factory. Yeah. And then the boards get shipped back to Annecy to get tested, to get like Annecy is kind of the headquarters. Sure. Like where all the offices is for all their products, like skis and running shoes and.
Oh yeah, they've got, and they're launching outerwear this year too, I think.
Yeah, Volley just started riding for them. Volley and a belt.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah,
that
changes things.
It does, doesn't it?
So Volley with a little Solomon, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, that's wild, right?
Yeah. That's really recent. Just the other day, he announced that.
Yeah,
and because he was a longtime Billabong rider, and then Billabong stopped making snow clothes. But he had some fun. I rode for DC for a little while too.
Oh, sick! Yeah. What era?
Travis Parker, Scotty Whitleg, Todd Richards.
Yeah. Is that's just before DC Mountain Lab, or it's those days?
That was the Mountain Lab.
Oh, sick.
You know, a funny little thing that I always think is very funny. So I kind of had a career that didn't involve jibbing, like rail riding. You know, as my edges were too sharp, and I didn't know I was supposed to tune them. But the DC Mountain Lab logo is me standing on a rail. Like, that little silhouette.
Yeah.
That was like an image of
That's
me on
actually
a rail,
you.
on a 162.
Oh, that's a snowboarding Easter egg right there. That's amazing. That's cool. So how long did that last for?
That was a good, fun little block. Probably about 4 or 5 years that I rode for him.
Wow,
And,
that mountain lab
during the
time was rad.
Pump up liner days,
yeah.
It was a really, really fun time. And when Ken Block passed away, it kind of made me think like, I wonder if I ever like properly told him thanks for all those good times and fun trips.
Seems
There's
like
a lot of things in snowboarding. Once things move on, it's like boom, going in different directions, and it was a very thankful time and such a cool company that was just really forward innovation of snowboarding, tricks. And, it was a really fun style of company to be part of, that was looking for the direction of not just product, but like, where is snowboarding going to go? How are we going to influence it? And kind of had the style of company that had the money. Like, what do you want to do? How do we, Danny Way, you want a big ass ramp? Like, we'll build that for you.
Totally.
It was very good days, and a really cool team. Todd Richards again on there, and Travis Parker, Whit Lake, and that was some fun times. I've definitely had some fun with snowboard sponsors.
Yeah, Dev was on there, got on there around that time, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Actually, he
But
stayed
was
on
DC
there.
Boards.
Right, he was on DC Boots even through
I might have been there before
shit.
DC Boards.
Yeah.
But so was Devin, I believe. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, that's true. He was. I love the stuff like the DC Mountain Lab where they're building community within their
that's
team.
such a cool idea.
Yeah. And you got on with the Robot Food guys, but not right at the beginning, right? Like it was
not at the beginning. It was and I think if I asked a lot of people, they would be like, "You were there the whole time."
Right.
But I was filming with Kingpin.
Yeah.
And then let's see.
Did you do skits and stuff in Kingpin?
Oh yeah.
What's your skit? I don't have the movies memorized.
Well, I had one. One was just me at a skate park. Let's see, brainstorm. Everybody was kind of a dreamy state, and I got knocked out at the skate park, and then it goes into my video part, and then I wake up at the end going,
Yeah.
And but the good one went out to, let's see, so it was Destroyer. That I went out to New York with Whitey, Mikey LeBlanc, dressed up as a cop, Twos, J2.
Yeah.
Dressed up as a bum.
And
me and Otterstrom were the hippies driving a school bus.
I remember. Of course. That's sick.
Beat it, bum.
That's awesome.
But it was an awesome skit, but it was super fun being in New York with Twos and LeBlanc. And having LeBlanc yelling at me in his cop get up.
Peak
attitude.
LeBlanc right there. That's epic. That's so fun. Well, the Whitey movies were really fucking awesome. And I heard, like, when they jumped the General Lee car, like, he just went and bought that car and
that was in
wrecked
Bend.
it.
That's right by our house in Bend. And that was a Crawford idea. Him and Jake Price got a backhoe set up in just a random gravel pit. No one bothered them, and they set up, and a lot of luck involved for that car going straight and launching. Yeah. Because they just put a block on the pedal, and it went.
That's so sick.
Yeah, a lot of cool little skits and fun.
That's
those little ideas definitely added to your friend family, brought the riders together, at that time when like teams were tight, and it was kind of a way to bring different personalities together and become really good friends.
Yeah,
and,
across all different
it showed
brands.
in the snowboarding that was offered in those films, I think, is how close everybody was and how we're all supporting each other.
So you were still filming with Whitey for the first couple of Robot Foods.
Yeah, and that was my start of filming. Actually, not 100% true, but filming with Whitey is when I decided that's what I want to do. That is the pace that I want in my season. Not one contest, like you got to do it today or nothing. It's kind of, you got the whole season to kind of show your snowboarding and pick the days that you're feeling it. And I really liked that kind of style of riding. And
would you put together a trick list?
Yeah.
And you would like spots, and you would be like this.
Maybe
spot,
not spots so much, but a trick list, like the tricks I wanted to get, and maybe in my head as specific as like what I wanted to get them on, like a park jump or a powder jump or a cliff drop, and maybe the list would be more in my head at the beginning, and then I would start laying out tricks that I got or that I think every rider kind of did this, like in the quality of the shot, like it's a pretty good one, but maybe I should try to get a better one. And then you start laying it out, like, how's your whole part going to look, And so it's kind of a list that starts out and goes as your season goes on. And that's totally part of it, trying to see what's missing in there and, lines and rails, but that never quite happened with me.
I love that. No, this is a part of the, pro career. Before there were coaches and Instagram followers and social media numbers, right?
Yeah.
But you're still doing it, and you've got. Are those a part of your contract right now, like social media numbers and things like that?
Yeah, but I warn everybody I ride for, and I mean, like Solomon, they know what's happening.
Yeah.
But like I don't quite do Instagram. Like I do Instagram to show my family what I'm up to. That it's not just, and I know I'm supposed to do it, and it's kind of fun putting it out there.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm just too old for.
You didn't transition to
that, and
tons of.
And
content.
it's like, what do I have to offer snowboarding? Is something else that goes on in any snowboarder's head. I think pro snowboarder, and I don't think Instagram's what I'm here for.
Right.
And I look at the derby, the snowboard bank slalom that I put on, and that's totally something that I have to offer the snowboard community is. Like something in person, that everything so much is on a little screen and communication and a moment when you can see a person and say, hey, there you are, it's the real thing. And, those are the kind of things that I appreciate and I know that are special and unique. And I appreciate people who do Instagram really well and make it something special. But I'm glad that's not the only thing, and I'm glad I'm not the only thing. That it's everybody adding pieces to.
That's actually a really positive spin on it because it's true, right? Like some people just do Instagram really, really well.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking Jody Wachniak. Every time I see like what he's curating, I'm like, dude, rad style, stuff of him, stuff of the industry, like super sick.
And you're trying to inspire people with Instagram, and it's easy to make them jealous, FOMO. It's easy to kind of be like, I'm doing it all and you're not, and it's certain people do that better where it is inspiration that you're getting out of it.
Totally.
And community and support.
Totally. Yeah, man. And so what's the genesis of the bank slalom? Like, was there...
Mine.
Yes. Is there a...
It started before Instagram.
Is it a memorial or anything like that? Is it like... It is, right?
No, it's not a memorial.
It's not.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Because
but there are reasons that we do it, and many reasons.
Yeah.
And some very genuine and important. But at the start, I was doing Baker, and I was dazzled by Baker. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And then I think it was Bachelor, but maybe just Bend, Oregon kind of said, like, we should do something, or you should do something back at home. No, you know who it was Brad Stewart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, from
I certainly
Bonfire.
Do. And by the way, if this is a great time for me to say this, if you're thinking about supporting our Patreon listeners only are going to get a 5-year-old, 6-year-old Brad Stewart full audio episode this week. I just listened to it.
I need to become a Patreon.
Brad, I'll send it to you for being a guest.
I don't mind supporting those things. I'll try to become a Patreon.
He is a absolute well of knowledge about snowboard history, about snowboard business. So he told you, you should.
He was
do
the
it.
first little
That's amazing.
flicker of the flame.
Amazing.
Mentioned it, and then it just kind of rolled into like, I should do a bank slalom. There's not too many out there, and doing something in my home mountain. And then it kind of came up. What are we going to do with the money? And around that time, a local rider, Tyler Eklund, 13-year-old, just kind of up and coming snowboarder in our community, broke his neck at Snowboard Nationals, and as bad as you can. Like, he's on a breather machine, but he's very much alive still, and very awesome kid. Not a kid anymore, but compared to my old age. But he's a really cool person, and he is for sure our inspiration. And in the beginning, when he did have the accident at USASA Nationals, just landed on a jump and riding out of it, and just had an edge catch that just threw him into a weird position. And but he didn't have health insurance, and that is a time, it still is the time that a lot of people don't have health insurance, but luckily not as many. And he didn't have health insurance, and he had incredible bills, hospital, but also just helping his family deal with those costs. And so the Derby for first many years was just purely supporting him.
Yeah.
100% of the money raised through the event. It was all volunteer, and went to Tyler, and like he started to be like, over the first couple of years, maybe even starting the second or the third, like he started becoming part of our event. And for the last majority of the derbies, we're on the 16th now, and most of them he's raced in our event. We have a Sitski that is a Sitski, and there's a really talented driver, Kendall, from in town, and a really cool program, Oregon Adaptive Sports, in town that gets athletes on the hill that have special circumstances. And they get Tyler up there and races down the course. So every year when I'm building the course, I'm thinking about the top pros, Curtis, Austin, Nils Minnick, but also Tyler Eklund, and how everybody can build a course. And that's a kind of special part of the Derby too, is try and build something that everybody, that's the whole idea, is trying to get everybody in the same spot, going on the same course, and having it a timed event is something where you can really compare yourself to other riders and competitors, and not in a bad way, but compare. It's all the same competition. And we have divisions, of course, 24 of them, and 503 racers.
That was okay. So Seth Westcott was like, let's go to the Derby. And I was like, fuck, I'm getting invited to the Derby with Westcott. Let's do it. Like, I was 100% down to go. This year? I had him on the show maybe 2 years ago. Yeah. And I thought, all right, I'm going. It didn't work out that he could go timing wise. Yeah. But I called him again this year. I'm like, you think you're going to go? He's like, oh, maybe. Yeah. And then I went to sign up, and I'm like, oh my God, signing up is like not even possible. That's not how this works.
There is possibilities, right. But of course, it has become, for different reasons, like it's become very popular. Oh, that's a very overwhelming part on my side of things as a contest organizer. Is I wish I had a running style race where they could have 2,000 plus competitors, but there's a limit to the day. We do it in December, middle of December.
Yeah, you do it early, which is rad.
Yeah, but that's a kind of a special thing that became about it too. It's kind of pre-season, when everybody meets up and goes, what are you doing this season? Where you can plan out how the season's going. And a lot of bank slaloms are in the spring, where it's like, what have you been up to? This one's, what are you about to do?
Sick.
And but the registration is the biggest challenge we have, and we have a formula, and I have fun with it. It maybe around the Derby 5, it started becoming an issue. Like we used to put it online in the very beginning, and I think it was online, just register, and it would fill up, and then it filled up quicker. And then about the Derby 5, it filled up in about 2 minutes. Right. And that was 15 years, or how many years ago that was. Mm-hmm. Maybe not 15, but it was like, oh, geez, this is a problem now. Right. And then it's just developed from there.
It's kind of a quality problem. It's like, you know what, once I remember Baker really getting some pushback. Like, how come I can't get in? They're like, hey, look, there's a limit. now they've gotten to the point where they're very nuanced about it, and it's easy to understand. But in the beginning, it was kind of like, what the hell? But you just said it. It's like a timed event. You need the X amount of time to time each person. Like you just have to.
And ours is at the shortest day of the year, pretty much. Right. And I've done the math of like how many minutes of daylight, and there's not many minutes of daylight at that time of year. Right. And then you got to plan on bad weather. Sometimes it might be sunny and you can do more racers, but you can't plan on the weather, and so kind of 500 became our number, which is a big number.
That's a huge number.
Yeah. But we've got some systems in place that it's a pretty reasonable number for us to get through. Right. And then also what comes up is the first Derby, the first bunch of derbies were all middle-aged males. All people my age, and it was super fun. But then you started going, hey, let's get more females in here, and let's get more kids, and let's get more older riders, and we got adaptive riders and trans riders, and you start making divisions, and kind of a fun part from my side of things is making those divisions properly competitive. Not we have a male 40-year division with 200 racers, and then a adaptive division with 2. You know, you kind of want things to be like filling them up, and that's kind of fun searching for people. You know, like, okay, who's wants into this division, and this year we added kind of a change was we went 50-50 male to female. And so a lot of the female divisions didn't fill up. Yep. Even in the end, they didn't fill up, you know, but it's fun searching and piecing that together. And it's kind of like we were just talking about with the video part. You know, you kind of want to make a plan, you know, you don't want to just throw it together and see what happens. You know, it's kind of fun making a contest. You know, I think the people that get frustrated are saying like, oh, like you're like, it's only exclusive for certain people, only Dirksen's buddies. But it's fully, you know, putting people in the places. You know, I want like a random little kid to drop in next to Travis Rice. You know, you kind of want
that's dope.
Just fun stuff to happen. And you know, I look at the final start list and it's like, yeah, this is cool for many reasons, not just my buddies by any means.
Right.
And but just mix of ages, mix of genders, and riding abilities. And we have sit ski divisions too. That's a really fun division to watch and to organize. And so sorry, people out there that everybody can't get in. But yeah, it's kind of the fun of it from our side. And what keeps us motivated to continue on every year is how the riders that we will get down there and how we'll build that constellation of people in there. And so
it's fun. So right from the beginning, was it like a fun experience for you? Were you like, oh yeah, I should be doing a contest down here? Because obviously it became something really, really quickly. It became something that was impactful in the industry. Yeah.
It's fun. And it's really fun after it's done every year. Nope. And our courses are 100% hand dug. And at that time of year, like Baker, the Baker Banked, they set gates is their style. And then as the week goes on, the berms get built up and it develops, and that's the style of that course. Yes. But our course, we're digging it or building a course with 12 inches of snow sometimes. And so we're farming the snow and bringing it in. And we have 2 courses for a combined time, and they're only 30 seconds long. And so it's a pretty short, friendly, I try to say it's like running speed, jogging speed. You know, it's a pretty, like you don't blow out of a gate, you kind of tip over, you know, as a, but because of the style of the course, we can make a pretty fun course with a really small amount of snow. And,
that's dope.
And and it makes it so a lot of, we had 72-year-old rider drop into the course. We had an 8-year-old rider. We had sit skiers. We had, you know, really a wide range of abilities and styles of snowboarders and riders. And it's a really fun part of the event. And probably the course building is almost what I enjoy the most. That's a really like seeing it. And over the years, I got a crew of diggers that I bring in and I pay. You know, we're not all volunteers around there anymore. It's like we're there to do a good job, hard work, and make it worthwhile. And so we built an awesome course and just really sharp. Another inspiration for our course design is our buddy Pat Melendowski. So over the years, it's always been Tyler Eklund has been like a main focus, a main inspiration for our event. But we have a buddy, Pat Melendowski, who was a cat driver, pipe, built the 2002 Olympic pipe, for example, and he got diagnosed with brain cancer. Yikes! And that's become a person that really is on our mind every year when we get back together. And he's been a big part of the derby and the design. Like if you look at the style of our course, it does have a unique look to it. It's really sharp because we're building everything. It comes out really, and because you're not going fast, there's not really ruts in there so much. You know, it's it's like pretty manicured little piece. And because it only has 12 berms each, you can kind of go back and smooth them out. And but Pat's inspiration really shows through in the course. And Pat's doing great for everybody to know. He got diagnosed with brain cancer, I think about 11 or 12 years ago, like a really serious, dangerous form, brain cancer, and went through a bunch of surgeries and took some experimental, maybe that's not the word, but medicines that like it might help, and you can be our test subject. and they gave him 6 months to 5 years to live, and it's been 11 years now.
Sick.
And he's been snowboarding, and he rode his first chairlift in a long, long time this year.
Oh, good.
And I get back to Bend in a couple of days, but I heard his plan after he rode up the chairlift, and things are going good, that he's feeling good, that he wants to race the Derby next year.
Oof,
so
that's
like, all right.
awesome, man.
Yeah,
That's
awesome.
so
But I got
awesome.
some planning on the course due in my head. How am I going to get everybody through?
But
it is really special things like that keep me motivated.
yeah, that's
motivated to
really
keep
dope.
going.
Well, hearing you talk about it, the first thing I think about now is Cale Stevens' mom, Diane Stevens. She's 80 this year. So, and she could race the Derby, no problem.
Oh.
Got to bring down an 81-year-old woman to race it
we're
next
looking
year.
60 plus ladies is a division that I
80
just
plus.
started.
What about 80 plus?
80 plus,
ladies?
we got a division for sure. You got a spot in there.
Yeah.
And kind of 60 plus women. That's a category that's harder to find. Like
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
she's
used
an
to be
anomaly,
50 plus
yeah.
women, but
Yeah.
once you start throwing it out there that there's a place to come race, like there are riders that are 50, 60,
Yeah.
male, female. It is, you just got to search for them and set up. Kind of with our registration, we try to let people know that there's a spot for them too.
Right.
Because the history of the Derby is like, it's full. And it's like, well, it's not
Truth.
exactly full.
Right.
Like certain divisions are full.
I reached out to you about it, and you explained that to me actually in DMs. You're like, certain divisions are full, but we still have space for certain divisions. Take a look at the divisions. Yeah.
And you should definitely come down.
Yeah,
And I try to
that'd be
set
fun.
up the Derby with just a weekend full of fun community.
I want to interview JMO.
Yeah.
JD
Classic.
Platt.
Yeah.
If I could get like a Ben Ferg, who else is down there? Nils?
Nils isn't, but he comes in for the Derby every year.
Yeah.
He's won it many times.
Yeah.
But,
is he from Oregon as well? Or
No, he's from East Coast, but he lives
he's
in Utah
a full
now.
East Coast. Okay.
But him and his brother Hans got first and second fastest times this
sick,
year, ripping through the course.
Yeah. There's a couple of other Bend locals. Oh, obviously Jerry. I'd love to have Jerry on the show.
Yeah,
That would be
Jerry's
so
a
fun.
misty man. He's living down in Baja most of the time, and he comes back when the powder's good.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe it's an early
he's classic
season.
surf style. Like he's there when he should be there.
I love that. His documentary made me realize, because he says, "Oh, my life has been very, very self-centered."
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I'm, oh yeah, like if you tell your significant other, well, it snowed, I know we have plans, but you know how I am about when it snows. Like, that's pretty selfish.
Yeah, but also inspirational. When you have a passion and
Yeah.
you dedicate to that, and there's very inspirational. I'm sure Jerry's inspired by many people too.
Yeah, right. But, doesn't he throw an event there as well? The Big
Wave Challenge. Yeah,
right.
That's another Patagonia. Helps a lot with my event, and they help a lot with that one too. With Jerry.
So you guys are on like a shared team kind of thing?
For sure we are.
Yeah.
With Patagonia, and then there's a lady at Patagonia, Allison Allen, who focuses on the events, and we both work closely together with her to make. Like, they add a lot of value to both of our events.
Let's talk Patagonia right now. We were talking about it at the beginning.
Course hold.
Oh yeah.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Let's pivot to Patagonia. That's sick. Whose coffee is it?
What I'm making here is a classic Bend, Oregon roast from Back Porch.
Yeah.
They make little freeze-dried packs. Kind of everybody in Bend does. Bend loves their coffee. It's kind of just Nescafe.
Yeah.
But made high quality, and it's perfect for going camping. When I go out camping, getting a good cup of coffee and not Nescafe is really nice. And kind of a highlight of my day as I'm going along.
I love it.
Test them out, Back Porch. There's a lot of cool companies in Bend that make Bend special.
Oregon in general, there's something really, really special about Oregon.
Yeah.
I went in 1990 or 91 to Wendell's. It was $3.99 at the time for a full week.
Oh, nice.
My parents paid half because I heard you talk about yours. You were like, it was $4.95. I
think my parents thankfully paid half too. That was part of the deal.
Yeah. Well, I remember it went up pretty quickly. Like by the time we went back in 95, I think we went back the summer of 95, It was very, very
I would think that's
expensive.
about the $1,000 price.
Yeah.
That's when I started working there.
Yeah.
But I worked there digging half pipes, pretty much 10 out of 10 days a week, or out of the sessions were 10 days, and we worked every day and in between days, and we got paid $70 a session.
That's unbelievable.
So $7 a day. But free lift tickets, free food, free skate ramps.
Yes.
And not free beer at the Ratskeller, but had enough to buy a beer or two.
Ratskeller is such a classic spot.
Classic.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Patagonia. When did you first get on Patagonia? How did you make that decision even?
Let's see, how did I get on Patagonia? I think I've been on there, quick guess is like 10 years.
Okay.
12 years?
Yeah.
It might be 12 years, but it seems like forever, but it hasn't been forever.
Right.
And let's see, my buddy Tyler Lamont, who worked at Solomon, and he moved to Patagonia. And when he got there, he said, we need to develop a kind of a snow program, kind of ski, snowboard, pants, having pants that fit over bindings. Classic Patagonia gear was kind of made for backcountry mountain climbing, maybe a touring up kind of style rider, but making just some quality snowboard clothes, ski clothes that have a good style and good fit to them. And just knowing him from the Solomon days, and I think Bonfire was in there too, that he, and it was right after I started filming, spending a lot of time on split boards too. And, and film, we just got done filming that Deeper movie with Jeremy Jones.
The TGR stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was a big direction change in my life, my snowboarding career. And so it kind of all lined up that Tyler called me up and asked me if I was interested in riding for him.
Had you, was Protect Our Winters going, and had you gone in front of Congress and everything at that point? Or
not by that point, but that was about the time, I think Protect Our Winters started in 2007.
Yeah.
And this was probably 2009 that we filmed the Deeper movie.
Right.
I think it was a 2-year project, and so it came out in 2010. But part of that movie was going up to Alaska with a handful of writers and filmers, a bunch from TGR and Jones, Xavier De La Rue, Lucas DeBari, Ryland Bell. There's sorry if I'm missing names, but I think I could keep talking about how. And but we went up there, and there was a lot of down days, and luckily not as many as there could be. I think their first trip up to Alaska for Deeper, I think they had all down days. Like Travis Rice was up there, and I think they had 20 of them.
Oh, wow.
More. And so we went up there, and we got a lot of riding in, but there was a lot of time spent in tents, and we had a big community tent, and just talking, conversation. And part of that conversation was about Protect Our Winters, and that Jeremy Jones got going, and just the conversation of climate change in general, that it's easy to get in those situations up in the mountains, especially glacial mountains, and notice changes. And by that time, I'd been going up to Alaska many years with heli skiing with various companies, and then camping out there, you kind of get an even more personal relationship with what's going on, and just in life in general, seeing how we use things and how things change and what's affecting them. It was a conversation that when you're stuck in a tent is a perfect kind of thing to pass some hours. And
Sure.
And so I came back from that trip loving split boarding even more. It was soon after I got involved, but just split boarding, the idea in general, really opened up a lot more terrain. We were kind of so packed in when we were relying on snowmobiles, helicopters. There's rules where you can go and what's wilderness, and split boarding, it just kind of opened up everything. And all the most beautiful places are the ones that are protected and from machines and burning gas. And so, split boarding kind of changed things. Then the appeal with Patagonia was, you start to appreciate clothes that are well designed, breathable, layers that don't sweat as much. And that's what Patagonia had to offer. And then having that conversation changing into how are we affecting the environment that we love so much up here? Patagonia was really aligned with that also. And so it was a quick yes, and to start riding with them, and it's been awesome ever since. they're such a inspirational company. You know, they make me a better pro athlete and advocate. Even we just not necessarily just part of Patagonia. You know, some of it ties in, but working with Protect Our Winters, I'm one of their athletes, and we put on suit and ties and go to Washington, D.C. And part of the goal of Protect Our Winters is to make change through policy, like changing laws, not saying that you need to drive less or you need to not ride your snowmobile. It's kind of changing laws that'll make snowmobiles like more friendly and for the environment, and laws that just make simple changes that affect millions of people, which does way more than just your individual action.
I'm glad that you're saying this. So typically, me personally, I'm like probably even more on the side of where you're at than you are. Like, I'm like, the environment is very, very important. Mm-hmm. What we're doing to it is insane. Like, we need laws quicker, faster, that are more effective. But I've come to realize that we're talking to the general public here too, right?
Yeah.
This kind of climate talk and solution talk and talking about Protect Our Winters and talking even about Patagonia polarizes some people, and is almost like some people look on it like this is a kind of a religion thing. You know what I mean? Like, almost like if you're a Christian going like, and Jesus is my savior and he should be yours too, or you're going to hell. Yeah. Like, you just put a nice crack in that for me to kind of interject that, look, if you don't believe this is what's going on and you've got other information that you are going down that rabbit hole, there's no real downside risk to having smart policies that are, okay, but I guess on the other side, people like, jobs and jobs, or whatever it is on the other side. Yeah. But I if there's some way of addressing people that, I don't want to say climate change deniers, because some people are just like, they look at things like Protect Our Winters and go, well, they're making vinyl stickers out of oil. It's like, what? And you had to fly to Alaska to get there in the first place. What does it matter if the last few kilometers is on skis? What's the difference?
Totally. Yeah.
Right. So just to make a nuanced conversation here, like, that's out there, right? And also that there is some substance to the other side that it's not me that's saying this, but I think we could address those concerns for people and say, like, look, it's not perfect. Yeah. Patagonia is not perfect. Protect Our Winters is not perfect. It wasn't designed to be perfect. It's based on the idea that we want to protect winter. Like, we're watching glaciers recede. Yeah. We're having terrible snow years locally, which is in some way weather, but it is in some way very deeply indicative of the crisis.
Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts about it. I mean, it's totally part of my career, my job, snowboarding. It's not just worried about the glaciers. Like, companies I ride for are worried about their companies, and how things are affected. And it's totally part of my conversations that I have, as much as cool places to go snowboarding, styles of tricks, grabs. And, it's just what I'm around all the time, which puts me in a good position to have an opinion. But I've also learned, being in this position, that it's the changes that we're searching for, everybody has a valid point. That it's not that if I have a strong opinion on it, that's not the opinion that's going to solve all these problems. Like, things that everybody says does have value. And so it's trying to figure out ways that we're not just separated and stay in our own world. That I've gone to Washington, D.C. and talked about climate politics with the Republicans, and been super frustrated and they're crazy. And then over time, even over like years, kind of thinking about it, and how they do, like, how it all is part of the solution. Everybody's opinions, and that working together is the start. And another kind of random thing that I got in my head too through this whole thing is, sometimes it's super frustrating, and trying to put yourself in that position where everybody's bickering about little things, and things that you can't quite say yes or no. It's like maybe this is the direction.
Sure.
But I'm totally the person that that does that. In snowboarding, I get excited for innovation, kind of like we were talking about the step-ins and just how a snowboarder's job is to kind of head directions and see what's possible and new. And that's kind of what climate change, it's not trying to say like the solutions are this. It's kind of just kind of seeing what things work good and what directions to go, and having the same car for the last 20 years, then looking at, I have a Toyota Tundra, and recently I'm like, I wonder what the new Tundra looks like. And it has the exact same gas mileage. It's like, as far as I can kind of say, it's like the exact same car. And for me, that is boring. I'm kind of like innovation and snowboarding in life. It's kind of new ideas are what make life exciting. And that's kind of what the direction with climate change is. It's not just trying to solve the problems with the environment, it's trying to just keep life exciting, have a car that is cooler than the old one, and not like I am stuck on the same thing. And I realized that different people, aren't the same. But for me, innovation, moving forward, new ideas, and having those conversations is kind of part of what keeps me going, not just in pro snowboarding, but in this whole climate conversation too. So I've accepted my fate, but that's the conversations that I'm around and the conversations that I do have something to add. And I've been part of them enough to know that I'm not all right, and then just trying to get everybody involved so we can come up with the right answers and be on the same page, and, is the important part and maybe something I have to offer.
That's rad. Yeah. I think, because I bought an electric car and then I wouldn't stop talking about it. And, and when you buy an electric car, there's a good, solid group of the community that wants to say like, hey, those batteries are difficult to produce, and you might be actually adding to climate change if you look at the the net thing. And there's a point at which I feel like, well, let's innovate, let's
do it.
Come on, let's.
What if we were all arguing about landlines still? And it's
right,
like, let's just dive all into this iPhone thing.
Right. That's it. Totally. So. Yeah, it's a nuanced conversation, and thank you for letting me interrupt and say that. But I'm pretty much in awe of the, going to the legislature and actually like presenting in front of the policymakers in your country, and definitely that's happening up in Canada too. Like, being a part of the action of the future. Like, hey. And I love when Jeremy told me, oh yeah, we're looking at this from the point of view of like, there's a lot of jobs that are affected if there's no snow.
Yeah.
Tons.
Yeah.
Like an entire
already
industry.
Yeah. And a lot of snowboard companies. And I mean, everybody's worried. And all the companies are worried, like, how do you talk about it? Like, we see the problem, but how do you not depress people? That's been something too. Like, how do you say snowboarding's awesome, but we're not sure if it's how it's going to continue, if the resort you're next to is going to open up. It's a constantly changing thing, and nobody has the answers, and we're not. The important thing is trying not to say that we do have the answers, and like, things are a guarantee.
Well, this Patagonia guy, what's his name though?
Yvon Chouinard. But there's a lot of Patagonia people that are doing amazing things, but Yvon Chouinard's the head of the company.
So he shocked the world, right? He said, "Okay, look, we're gonna go public." But we're going to only have one shareholder in it, and that's the world,
planet Earth.
The planet.
Yeah. He shocked the world and shocked the company, the employees, many times over. He's put ads in New York Times that said, like, don't buy this jacket. And that to reuse jackets. It's better to have a jacket that lasts longer, and just certain things like that. But more recently, they're a privately held company. So they can make their own decisions. That's part of the awesome thing with Patagonia. And then it kind of started with Yvon coming into the office. And before their company motto was build the best product, do the least damage. I forgot what it was exactly, but it was kind of a good, well-rounded company motivation. Building the best product is a goal as much as anything else. And then it started with him coming to the office saying the company motto is to save our home planet. That's the new company Patagonia motto. And for everybody in the company, it's like, what are we doing? And it's like, we're doing things that will change the way we look at this planet and how we move forward. And that caused a lot of change just from that one statement. Is my buddy's in charge of fabrics and design, and it meant redesigning all the fabrics to be recycled fabrics, reused wool, just kind of figure out different ways to kind of source things and PFC free. That's kind of a direction. A lot of fabrics have a forever chemicals, and that's kind of a fun is the direction. It's from a lot of people that work Patagonia, myself included, it's figuring out new ways to do things, like making the same jacket that we made in 1990s, that's freaking waterproof, but has just chemicals involved that are kind of nasty. It's kind of fun, like searching for different directions. And so that company motto kind of changed it and put a focus on which direction they're going. And then about a year ago, Yvonne said that it's hard to explain, but this is the easiest way to explain it, that they're a private company and they're going public, but their only shareholder is the planet. And so at the end of every fiscal year, the money that's usually put back into shareholders for profit and what kind of drives big companies to what defines the success is put back into planet, which just means not just nonprofits, like nonprofit organizations that are working, but politics and politicians that are heading in the directions that align with those values. And but even just clever ideas. I mean, they get when you change a company like that to be, you get a different style of employee that's like, I want to do something. What am I, making money for somebody who owns a share is not that exciting. But if you're making money for like a fun idea, or maybe fun's not the word, but it's an idea like, ooh, I can get passionate about this. That's where you really come up with new ideas, like exciting, awesome ideas. And, and that's where Patagonia is now. And so they, when they made the change a year ago, they assume that they figured they'll have about $100 million at the end of each year to invest directly back into the planet Earth, and the products that they make, how they make them. I guess that's not part of the $100,000 or $100 million. Right. It's just cool ideas, and what are those ideas going to be? And it's up to all the employees working at Patagonia, and myself included, I guess, like what directions are we heading? And it was Vaughn. Vaughn was the instigator, and that's what he's always been. He's such a creative, clever, opinionated person. But it was very much the people that put in place at Patagonia as a company as a whole, the ambassadors included. But everybody working there is just doing it for a different reason and a inspirational reason. Yeah,
you were mentioning that, one of the projects, Patagonia bought a piece of property that just makes it difficult for extraction, oil and
project
gas
in Alaska. There's a new New York Times article that came out. I'm sure you can Google it and find it. There's probably a few on Patagonia in there. But it talked about how they're using that $100 million each year. And one of them was to just buy a piece of land that made it at least less accessible to search for oil deposits in a natural region of Alaska. And so it's not just trying to go to politicians and say, this is better than that. It's just kind of coming up with clever ideas. And I thought it was kind of fun to read.
Some land back stuff would be awesome, like a return to like indigenous knowledge, that sort of thing. Feels to me like a direction that can't hurt because...
And I think as time goes on, you kind of see how much value those regions are going to have in the future. That different kind of value, like right now you see oil as the value that it has.
Right.
But there's less and less land, and like natural space is what humans need to just stay mentally happy and inspired and to live. And, or that's what I think.
In the 70s and 80s, I believe Norway became an OPEC or oil producing country. Like they did a discovery off the North Sea or something. It was huge oil reserves. And I think they're the first country to start thinking like we might leave a good amount of this just in the ground. Yeah. We're not talking about a 30-year plan to extract every single reserve that we have.
Yeah.
And Norway right now, if I'm not mistaken, like we have like a per capita deficit, like we've got debt.
Yeah.
And they're a cash positive country.
Probably because they're selling oil, but I'm not sure.
Well,
but,
obviously because they're
but
selling
a lot of people
oil.
have good plans for the future, and not just environmentalists and stuff. It's
Right.
There's a lot of good ideas that get thrown around. Maybe another fun little conversational piece on that side of things. So I'm from Oregon, and so that means I can call up my congressional representative. At the time, it was Greg Walden, and say, "I want to meet with you, Greg." And he says, "All right, come by Washington D.C. and we can plan a time." And that was organized through Protector Winners, like with their help. And so I went to Washington D.C. and I went in there with thing that Patagonia or Protector Winners does for us too is provides information so we can kind of talk the talk too. And I went in there and talked with him and walked out of there kind of surprised that he was a nice guy. I walked in thinking like, oh, he's going to be, not the kind of guy I relate with. And it was like, oh, he wasn't a kind of nice guy. But a lot of his policy at that moment, I totally disagreed with, and I was, kind of saying we need to start investing more renewable energy. And he was kind of responsible for switching the U.S. over to natural gas. And that was kind of a big change and something that totally adds to climate pollution. And then a couple of years later, even thinking about it and reading articles, like the changes that he made by switching over to natural gas has done way more than I have with climate change. Like the amount, because switching over to natural gas took away a lot of coal burning. And then that change was like, oh, and so, I think I'm right a lot of times, but I've had this conversation enough and been around it enough to know that that everybody has something to add, and it's important to, in Greg Walden's, from his perspective, like he's doing a lot and he's not making one major change, but he's blending in a direction. And whether that was the change is like, no, wait. But then it's like, oh, maybe, you could reason out in your head that, that was a lot of greenhouse gases that were saved. And so I think from my side of things, I just try to stay in the conversation, which I am definitely around. And I try to be open-minded. And I try to bring, listen to everybody's opinion and not, because this is something that changes fast. And we don't have all the answers. And electric cars are fun. I just got one too, just like 2 months ago. It's been, but I don't say that they're future, but I just like having that conversation and going in that direction and seeing what's possible and not being stagnant and staying in the same place with the same ideas. The
cool thing about electric cars from my perspective is you get a better car. Okay, they're much more expensive.
Yeah, ours wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
But
you get a better car. That Subaru's electric, is that what you're
No,
driving?
no. That one's a good old Subi.
Yeah. But they're more fun. They're faster.
Yeah.
They've got less parts to replace. They're easier.
Yeah, we got one in Switzerland
maintain.
where I live.
Of course.
In Switzerland, they have a really strict speed limit. And the speed limit can go from 30 miles an hour to 40 miles an hour to 50 miles an hour to 30. It kind of changes quick. And my electric car has a cruise control. Just has technology that I'm pretty sure I won't get a speeding ticket as easy. And I bring that up because a year ago I got a $1,400 speeding ticket in Switzerland.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Everybody looked
hell?
at me like I was going to jail in the car. They're like, oh my God.
$1,400
$1,400 and I got my, and so certain things like that, I'm like, that is an improvement. If I can go the speed limit easier, that is
I hate the speed limit. I just hate that it was, so long ago that they came up with this, and we've got more technology now. We got better brakes, better, whatever. I think they could raise the speed.
I don't even want to go fast. I just want it to happen that I'm going the right speed. Whatever it is, just tell me, and I want my car to go that.
Yeah.
And and so for me, the electric car is just kind of an improvement in things that I need and that I want. And
so when do you move to Switzerland? Like at what point of your, because
let's see, 20 years ago, I started dating my wife.
Right.
And we've been together, or we've been married now for 12 years.
Yeah.
And so we've been together a long time, but kind of our schedule, and even my daughter, she's 10 years old now, was pretty set too. We almost come back for the Derby in December to Oregon, and then we stay in Oregon for winter because it's super fun and awesome. And Swiss winter is super awesome too. But there's something special about Bachelor and the community there.
Hell yeah.
And the accessibility of the hill. It's so quick to get up there. And the backcountry too for split boarding. I have a really good time.
It's pretty
camping.
dope.
And so kind of our schedule forever was back for the Derby, staying through winter, and then summers in Switzerland, and then back for the Derby. And my daughter even did that, was kind of grew up doing that, and then started going to school, and she went to school half and half. And it was only the last couple of years that my daughter's kind of growing older and has friends, and she's in 5th grade now and kind of in the school system. And so we live in Switzerland now.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, I'm kind of the same person I've been for the last 30 years even. You know, that I snowboard and I go to where I want to snowboard but we technically do live in Switzerland now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think all my buddies, whenever I get back to Bend, they just kind of haven't seen you in a while. What you been up to?
Yeah.
And, they think I'm still there. And I think I always will feel like I'm a Oregon loc.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And, no matter how it goes down.
What's your life in Switzerland like? Like, what are you doing when you're living there?
It's pretty fun, but it's pretty relaxing. Like, my position as a snowboarder, like I'm pretty in the industry and the community. And when I go back to Bend, Oregon, I mean, when I show up for the Derby, it's fully into it and social and a lot going on. And I am pretty social at times. Probably sounds like it in this podcast that I love talking and stuff.
Pretty outgoing motherfucker.
But I totally can go on a 10-hour hike and be very content. And I like having time when things slow down, and that's kind of what Switzerland provides me.
Oh, cool.
I get back there, and our daughter has year-round school, so in the summer they're going to school most of the time too.
Yeah.
And so kind of summers I just try to stay in shape, go biking, and just kind of keep my headspace good too. And there's a lot of nice places to trail run, hike, bike,
course.
And with nature and kind of situations that I really enjoy.
Are you bringing her winter camping like your dad did?
Yeah, that's my plan this trip. And I haven't yet because I'm making sure I don't blow it with negative 20 temperatures or something.
Right.
But right after this podcast, tomorrow we're heading back to Bend for 2 weeks. And I'm hoping there'll be a nice little block of decent weather that'll open up, and that'll take her out winter camping. And she's a girl, 10-year-old daughter, and but she's pretty into cold temps, which is I just say that because there's not as many women that love being cold, at least from my family perspective.
Sure.
Like my sister's definitely a no. Fabian, my wife, is a no. But my daughter's kind of into it, and I think she could be a good winter camper.
Oh, cool.
But still, I'm going to bring out some down booties and a nice give her the warmest of the sleeping bags, and I got a perfect little plan to take her out too, and get her in that side of things.
That's rad.
Yeah.
How about your dad? Your dad's still around?
He's coming on the winter camping trip.
I
too.
knew it. I just kind of knew it. That's amazing.
But he's actually up here right now, and he's watching my daughter today while we're recording this podcast.
Very cool.
And he came up originally to join us at Baker for the Baker Bank Slalom, to kind of when I take my runs, that he could be hanging with my daughter before she takes her runs, and we could kind of have a little flexibility.
Sick.
And he grew up a swim racer.
Yeah.
And so he definitely has a love for kind of racing and kind of being in that atmosphere. And
I love that.
And so, but yeah, he's very much a part of all our lives, and especially the outdoors and camping, and he's very happy that I ride for Patagonia and Solomon, and like that he can get deals on products too. And
That's rad. That's so rad.
He enjoys it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I feel like we did 2.5 hours. We're good, man.
Yeah.
That was fun. I could go forever. I could go
I totally
all day.
could too.
I appreciate you as a human being and as a snowboarder, a big part of the community. I was really excited to come talk to you, and this was just a fun day hanging out and learning a bit about your life and where you're at. And the companies that you ride for. And is there anything that we haven't touched that you wanted to get to? Is there anything?
I don't know. We got to stop sometime. But I mean, I got to say my thanks to everybody in Snowboardings who's helped me out for the last 30 years, starting with Tom Nordwall and up till now with all my sponsors. Thanks to Patagonia, Solomon, Smith. They're a really fun company to ride for these days. And I kind of have a lot of interest and opinion on helmets these days too. It's kind of a fun piece of snowboarding that needs some help and some direction.
Yeah, was there an incident? Like, did you have a concussion and then you had to go?
There's always incidents,
yeah.
People hitting their head and dying, and
yes,
there's or drastically changing their life or their lifestyle, and I didn't wear a helmet for a long time. They didn't even exist for the longest time when I was around or when I was growing up snowboarding. But it was kind of me telling my daughter, like, you need to wear a helmet. And she's like, how come you're not wearing a helmet? And, but then it was kind of like all this stuff in snowboarding, like, I have an opinion and if I don't, I want to make one.
Sure.
And so I started wearing helmets and it took a while, to be honest. It took maybe a year and a half to get comfortable. I fully stood in front of a mirror for hours trying to dial in like my clothes and helmet and how they fit. And
I got one. I got a very expensive add-on helmet with the MIPS and everything. And I was like, it's light. It fits perfectly.
Yeah.
And I rode it a few times. And then a friend took a picture of me and I was smiling, and I'm in the helmet and I was like, that just doesn't look right.
Yeah.
I need to.
But that's part of that's kind of something I got going on now is it's part of our job as pros to take it in a direction where it does look right. And, it does function well and that everything matches up, like the hoods for the clothing companies that we ride for match with the helmets that the companies make, and the design. And, if right now the top 1% of snowboarders, the best snowboarders who are influencing the product don't wear helmets, and you can totally tell that they're made for somebody standing in a lift line with little earmuffs and, like, hey. And, I think that's my job or our job to kind of influence.
Design something that those guys would want to wear.
Yeah. That is comfortable and that matches up with the outfit. Yeah. And challenges, just like the challenge with climate change and stuff is when you make changes, it changes so much stuff. Yeah. So much of your lifestyle and habits, the layers that you wear and the stuff you wear over it and how your goggles fit.
Truth.
And that's kind of a fun little passion I got going too.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool that you're taking that on. Yeah. It's so obvious when you have a kid at that age and that moment because I just wore a helmet with my kids for the first until they were in helmets. Yeah. So, but I only wore it when I was riding with them. And then I stopped wearing it, and they had already gotten so used to having it. Yeah,
and that's where I'm at now. Like I totally love many things about my helmet. I love how my hood fits over it on a storm day. I have such a cozy package. Sick, there's no fluffy beanie getting caked with snow. But it took me a while, and it took riding for Smith. They made a helmet that doesn't have ear flaps. There's kind of things like ear flaps are tough when you're used to hearing everything. Yeah. And then when you put an earmuff over your head, that totally changes everything.
And changes your heating and everything.
The whole thing. And I have a helmet that is very airy, breathable, with a lot of vents. And what keeps me warmer when it gets cold is the layers that I throw over the top, like insulated hoods. But it was a process, but it was kind of a fun process, and I'm happy where I got now. And I wear it split board, and I wear it all the time. Like if I put on my boots, I put on my helmet, and it stays there. When I'm drinking my coffee out in the backcountry, I still got my helmet on. And there's been random times when like a big snow piece falls off in the trees on my head. It's not just when you're snowboarding; it's just kind of when you're out in nature that things just happen.
I got hit with ice on
have a helmet.
Ice on the chairlift the other day. I ride just a headband. That's it.
Yeah, so, nice. I bet that looks good. I'm exposed. That mullet of yours.
Yeah, I'm exposed, but I stay warm. Like I've never struggled with the cold. We're out -20 headband. Yeah. I love it, but I get it. I do understand,
and I get it too that it is a change and that it's not something I'm trying to force on everybody. Right. But I did make a kind of declaration at the end of the Derby this year that helmets are mandatory in the future.
Well, helmets have always been mandatory in competitions anyways.
And really. I figure it's a fun time like to just promote helmets, to kind of get ideas on what styles of helmets, to see how people... And this year was a really icy year. And there actually was a few concussions. One of them, my buddy got a kind of proper concussion. It was kind of scary from my perspective as a contest organizer. Yeah. And I figure I made the declaration for my own sake. I worry about people and my friends, and that I'll set up something that'll hurt them at the Derby. And I want to make things as safe as possible. And so just for my sake of continuing the event and having the sanity to keep it going, and I'm like, I want everybody to have a helmet on. but it's also our events. I mean, we do it with 12 inches of snow, and you're riding around Bachelor. It's a mountain full of lava rock. You know, it's just it's not always, the helmet's not always the things that you're like, I'm snowboarding, I'm good. It's kind of just life and things that come up and situations. And so I thought it was just a fun opportunity to kind of put some focus on ideas and style. And but I have a few friends who said no. So we'll see how I'll proceed with them.
Right. Oh, you're such a pleasure to talk to, man.
Thanks,
I'm glad
Eric.
that the snowboard industry has, there's a lot of great people in it, and I count you among them.
Well, thanks for you for making these opportunities available, to bring these conversations and stories out. And
of course,
with snowboarding changes so much with magazines being gone and stuff, it's how do you tell those stories and keep that history of snowboarding going? And it's really nice that you connect with so many people, and that you're just an encyclopedia in your head, that you hear these stories and they're all in your brain up there, and you can kind of get that conversation.
Until I hit my head on a rock, and then they're all gone.
With your headband and mullet.
Exactly. Yeah, man. Well, it's just been a friggin' pleasure, dude. And you know what? The big thing for me, the biggest thing I get out of this is now if I see you at Baker or something, let's take a lap.
And have more conversation and keep this history and these stories continuing. And
totally.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. Yeah. I really, really appreciate it. I'll be doing season 10. I'll be doing an attempt at a complete history of snowboarding.
Awesome.
Like I was saying in the parking lot with Bass, that just detaches it from companies and attaches it to like the timeline of like, when was this invented?
Yeah.
When did we go from 3 straps to 2 straps? Yeah. When did we go from no straps to 3 straps? The shapes of boards, all those things. And it'll be fun to talk to you about, you were at some of those timelines.
Yeah.
I'll get your voice.
And anytime you want to come down for the Derby, I'm sure you can get a lot of interesting interviews down there too.
Yeah. I'm coming down. I'm going to do JMO's radio show. Nice. And then we're going to record that, and that'll be his podcast.
He doesn't have the radio. Do you mean his DJing?
Is it gone now? He doesn't have the radio show anymore?
Yeah. So JMO is Chris Jameson, and one of the more amusing men in the history of snowboarding.
Yes.
About 6'4" or something. He tries to do my derby every year, but he barely fits in the courses because he's so tall. His head hits the gates.
He's an original Mervyn pro.
Original,
too. Super OG.
So long. Yeah. But he had a radio show in town, and he was awesome. He has such a great interest and perspective on music for 92.9, the local kind of cool radio station. But after about a year and a half, he said it's a job for young kids, that you don't get paid anything, and it's kind of some demanding hours.
You don't. Right.
And so it was a year and a half of awesome. And kind of funny, I'm in Switzerland, but you can get the radio station online. And he was the morning show. And so about 3:30 in the afternoon for me, I'd turn on JMO, and he's like, who's up? Who's awake? And,
I love it.
And so it was kind of my connection with Bend, Oregon for a good year or two there.
That's so sick. But he's not doing the show anymore.
Not doing the show, but he still has plenty to talk about.
He does. Yeah. It was great.
Yeah, there's a lot of great personalities in Bend and Bachelor area.
Yeah, Bend Bachelor's is its own scene, isolated from this Timberline thing, which is like insane.
Yeah.
T-Line was always nuts for the summer snowboarding, but their spring snowboarding is actually the best time to go Timberline, I think.
Yeah, but Bachelor, that's kind of what's special about us. We generally have a season that starts pretty early. That's what makes a derby possible. Yeah. And it goes, it used to go till like June, but these days they go till end of May. And and they have stuff going on. It's pretty decent snowboard, and it's a fun time to be around there.
Sick.
Yeah, we got it really good. No, to top it all off, thanks to all my sponsors and all the people, and thanks to you. And I'm very thankful for the position that I'm here in snowboarding, and with such a history and such inspirational people that have led the way for me. And thank you all.
Yeah.
And, a pleasure having this conversation.
Thanks, dude. FNRad shoutouts this week to Josh Dirksen. Thanks for doing the show, man. Thanks again to Gwen and Elia and Bass and the entire Baker crew who was at the offices last week to help get ready for this interview. We're up to 29 Patreon members. Join the family and enjoy ad-free content a day early, plus a bunch of other perks. Plus, if you want to win a 1910 hoodie, tag 1910 in any FNRad post and we'll put you in the draw for a hoodie. Tag NewGreens in any FNRad post for a free sample of the greatest organic green juice mix anywhere, and be sure to come back next week for another episode of FNRad Snowboarding, presented by Skyview Campers and brought to you by FNRad Productions.